let judgment rain down its waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Come, there's a famine in the land. Behold, the days come, lest the Lord build a house. You labor in vain, he will come upon us like heavy rain. There's a famine in the land. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst after righteousness. Watchmen on the wall, hear the trumpet call, swords about to fall. 'Cause there's a famine in the land. Behold, the days come, not a food or water, but in the word of the Lord. Behold, the days come. There's a famine in the land. Behold, the days come.
Mashiach, Mashiach,
Mashiach. We sing praises, praises to our King. Mashiach, Mashiach, oh Mashiach. You're the reason that we sing. Mashiach, Mashiach, oh Mashiach. We sing joyous praises to our King. Veneraya poeleno, veneraya poeleno, Mashiach ben David. Veneraya poeleno, veneraya poeleno, Mashiach ben David. Veneraya poeleno, veneraya poeleno, Mashiach ben David. Veneraya poeleno, veneraya poeleno, Mashiach ben David.
Thanks for listening to Chava Messianic Radio, the very best Messianic, Jewish, and Hebrew roots music on the web.
42.
Try to keep your books here. Put them away so they don't spill.
ענו לאדוני בתודה, זמרו לאלוהינו בכינור, המכסה שמיים באבים, המכין לארץ מטר, המצמיח הרים חצי. כי טוב זמרה על אלוהינו, כי נעים נאווה תהילה. בונה ירושלים אדוני, נדחי ישראל יכנס. הרופא לשבורי לב ומחבש לעצבותם. שבחי ירושלים את אדוני. שבחי ירושלים את אדוני.
Shabbat Shalom Israel. Nice to have you with us. And Yahuwah Shabbat. Nice to have everyone with us.
Obtener a todos nosotros, ustedes con nosotros.
It's a blessing.
Gran braca.
Today is going to be a little bit different.
Hoy va a ser un poquito diferente.
We're broadcasting from the mountains.
Estamos transmitiendo de las montañas.
We're not. The signal should be pretty good.
La señal debería de estar top.
But you never know because it's Wi-Fi.
Pero uno nunca sabe porque estamos usando Wi-Fi.
As opposed to Ethernet.
A diferencia de Ethernet.
So if we get disconnected,
así que si nos desconectamos,
just restart, refresh,
reinicien su ordenador
and it should come back on.
Y debería de regresar.
So we're excited to be with you.
Estamos excitados de estar con ustedes.
And we're on the road, as I said earlier.
Estamos de viaje, como dijimos anteriormente.
You know, it's going to be a little bit different.
Va a ser un poquito diferente.
Than normal.
A lo normal.
But sometimes it's nice.
Pero a veces es top.
To have things different.
Que las cosas sean diferentes.
And we trust the sound is good.
Y esperamos que el sonido esté top.
Let us know.
Por favor, háganos saber.
Give us a quick comment that the sound is told.
Denos un comentario rápido si el sonido está top.
We see your comments in the chat.
Vemos sus comentarios en el chat.
And we're going to start.
Y vamos a iniciar.
With today's Torah Parsha.
Con la parasha de Torah de hoy.
And then we're going to go into a testimony.
Y luego vamos a hablar de un testimonio.
Of sound is told. Thank you, Gloria. Anybody else, just please confirm.
Si alguien más está escuchando y puede darnos seguimiento acerca del sonido, confirmen por favor.
Rebbetzin Rivka has done a wonderful job.
La rabina Rivka ha hecho un excelente trabajo
during the Zoom meetings.
Durante las reuniones de Zoom.
And also thank you, Brother McKinney.
Y toda Rabbi Lahi McKinney.
For helping.
Por ayudarle.
And we missed everybody on Zoom,
Extrañamos a todos en Zoom,
but we needed a little bit of a break.
pero necesitábamos un poquito de descanso.
We're up here in the mountain.
Estamos en las
We're
montañas,
celebrating her
celebrando
her 10th anniversary.
su 10º aniversario.
Mazel tov.
Braca Tuba.
I'd love to meet your husband one day.
Me gustaría conocer a su marido en algún momento.
I heard he's a good-looking guy.
He is.
But I also heard that he might help him to lose a few pounds. I don't know, but
I think we could all lose a few.
that's your business. I don't want to,
Why are you talking about my husband?
So I don't want to get into your business.
Why are you getting to my business?
But I heard he's a good-looking Jewish guy.
He is.
So what we're going to do is we're going to celebrate her anniversary, 10 years. That's why
Estamos celebrando
She's
10
here.
años, por eso está aquí ella.
I'm with her because I didn't want to make sure she didn't get mugged.
Vine con ella para que nadie la
Our
asaltara.
dangerous mountains.
Son montañas peligrosas.
And
Yeah, they're
yeah.
criminal bears around.
there you go.
Very bad people.
But there are other issues. Oh,
Pero hay otros
let me
problemas.
introduce you to our new friend. Would you bring Barely here, please?
Barely.
Bear Lie. I want to introduce you guys to our new friend. Because the heat doesn't work too well all the time, so this guy keeps us warm at night.
Este muchacho nos mantiene calientitos en la laila.
This is Barely,
Este se llama Barely.
Bear Lie.
Bear Lie.
He's a nice Jewish. Is he from the house of Judah or Ephraim?
He didn't wear his kippah today.
You ugly. Look at the camera when they're talking to you.
Mire la cámara cuando le
So-
estén hablando.
The thing we're trying to figure out is from the house of Judah or the house of Israel?
Si estamos queriendo saber si es de la casa de Yahuda o la casa de Israel.
What's that? Open your mouth when you talk.
Abrazo.
Stop it. How old are you?
What?
How old are you?
How old are you?
How old are you? How old are you? Speak clearly. Stop. I know you can speak in tongues, but I don't want you to. He's 3 years old. 3 years old?
Tiene 3 años de edad, dice.
You don't look a day over 60. Oh, you're quiet. Just hear your conversation, okay? You hear your conversation. You're not here to make funny jokes. Just read the Torah portion. You just want me to read the Torah portion? Who's the ventriloquist, you or me?
9.
Oh, you're quiet. Just read the Torah portion. All right, so you don't want to be part of this. Bye.
Back to you.
Baruch Hashem Yahu. All right. So we're going to engage in this week's Parsha. It's week 9. Tomorrow is Chodesh number 3. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So, sometimes it's a little tricky because you would think that if tomorrow was month number 3 on the times of angels, then you would think that that every month
Uno pensaría, mañana es el Jodesh o el inicio del tercer mes y uno pensaría que cada mes
had 4 weeks.
tendría 4 semanas.
So logically, the first thought is that today is the 8th Shabbat of the year,
Así que lógicamente el primer pensamiento es que hoy es el 8º Shabbat del año,
but it's not.
pero no lo es.
And when it comes to calculating the Torah
Y cuando
Parsha,
se trata de calcular las porciones de
so
Torah,
while I was preparing and just hanging out here in the mountains,
al yo preparar y pasar tiempo aquí en las montañas,
I was calculating, and it's actually the 9th week.
estaba calculando y es la 9ª semana. We can
No,
check in a
you
little
don't
bit.
have to because you're wasting time. Because it's 4 weeks.
brought the calendar.
There were 4 Shabbats in month 1,
Hay
and
4
5
Shabbats.
Shabbats in month 2. It's just the way.
Okay.
It's just the way it worked out. Okay, so today is the 30th day of the 2nd month, and so today is actually week Shabbat number 9. Okay.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Mm-hmm.
5, 6, 7, 8,
9.
9.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's why you have to check the time. So
the 9th
if you don't have the times, you can order this copy from us, and you'll be plugged into the times of angels, patriarchs, and Enoch. Enoch does not have a calendar. Enoch has
Enoch
principles,
no tiene calendario, tiene principios.
and those principles were taught to Enoch
Y esos
by
principios
Uriel and the other angels,
se le enseñaron a Enoch por Uriel y los otros malachim.
and then he taught it to men.
Y luego él se los enseñó a la humanidad.
And then Yahuwah taught it again through angels to Moses,
Y una vez más, Yahweh lo enseñó a través de Moshe, a ángeles a Moshe.
through Moses to the sons of Kohath,
Y de Moshe a los hijos de Kohat.
and to the sons of Kohath who became the Zadokites.
Y a los hijos de Kohat que se convirtieron en los descendientes, o eran los descendientes de Tzadok.
Don't make that mistake. Technically, there is no Enoch calendar
Técnicamente no hay un calendario de Enoch, es el calendario de
because
Yahuwah.
Enoch strictly has principles.
Enoch simplemente enseñó principios
Okay?
de tiempo.
So just, there are Enochian principles.
Hay principios de Hanok.
So we're going to have a very interesting time together.
Vamos a tener un tiempo muy interesante juntos.
And we're very honored that all our friends from Europe,
Y estamos estimados que nuestros amigos de Europa,
Scotland, Ireland,
Escocia, Irlandia,
all of Latin America
toda América Latina
have joined us on this
se
Shabbat
han unido con nosotros en este Shabbat,
when we're up in the mountains.
al estar aquí en las montañas.
And it's our privilege to be able to travel,
Y es nuestro privilegio poder viajar,
but at the same time spend time with our worldwide supporters
pero a la misma vez pasar tiempo con todos nuestros amigos y afiliados por todo el
and
mundo,
friends.
nuestros amigos.
So we're the 9th Shabbat,
Así que hoy es el 9º Shabbat.
and if you look in your new restoration
Y
scriptures,
si ven sus escrituras de restauración, sus nuevas escrituras de
True
restauración,
Name Edition,
edición del nombre verdadero,
and
en inglés.
I'm assuming many of you have received it,
Y creo que ya muchos de ustedes, o casi todos, las han recibido.
and you now see that we were not exaggerating.
Y hoy pueden ver que no estábamos exagerando.
We have the best
Tenemos la mejor,
Hebraic roots scriptures
las mejores escrituras de raíces hebreas
that's ever been produced.
que hayan sido producidos
And
en todo este tiempo moderno.
we trust that you have your copy,
Confiamos que ustedes ya tienen sus copias,
and that if you don't have it, you get your copy.
que si no las tienen las van a conseguir.
Either on Etsy or
Es a
rstne.com,
través de Etsy o rstne.com,
because I checked the supplies
porque chequé nuestro inventario
and we don't have a lot.
y no tenemos mucho.
And actually, I'll tell you more, even Mariami doesn't know
Y les digo, más que aún Mariam ni no sabe,
it, because I haven't had a chance to tell her.
porque no he tenido chance de decirle.
We're not going to have as many red
No vamos a tener tantas rojas
as we thought.
como lo pensábamos.
Okay, and most of it's going to be blue.
La mayoría van a ser
And I just
azules.
found out. So
Y acabo de aprender
so we'll talk more about that later.
Hablaremos más de esto después.
But whatever you do, you don't want to
Pero
wait
pase lo que
anymore
pase, no se quieren esperar más tiempo
to make sure you get your
para
RSTNE
confirmar de recibir sus escrituras de restauración
red letter edition.
de letra roja.
And it doesn't matter how you pronounce the names.
Y no importa cómo pronuncien los nombres,
We have it in Paleo Hebrew.
lo tenemos en el hebreo paleo.
So the 9th week Torah Parsha
Así que la porción de la 9ª semana
is found in Bereshit,
la encontramos en Bereshit,
chapter 34.
Bereshit 34,
Genesis,
Génesis 34,
chapter 34.
Génesis 34, Bereshit 34.
And I'm going to ask Sister Mariamni
Le voy a pedir a la Jot Mariami
to read today's Torah Parsha.
que lea la porción de Torah de hoy.
Once we finish with today's Parsha,
Una vez que completemos la lectura de la parasha,
today being the 30th day of the second month,
hoy siendo el Yom 30 del segundo Jodesh,
tomorrow being Chodesh,
y mañana es Jodesh número 3,
and a quick change in plans.
y un rápido cambio de
We
planes.
will be on the air,
Sí estaremos transmitiendo en el aire,
okay, because we have enough time here
porque aquí tenemos suficiente tiempo
to relax
para
and
relajarnos,
to rest
descansar
and to spend time
y pasar tiempo
with Yahuwah
con Yahuwah
in Shalom.
en Shalom.
So we will just make a note,
Así que hagan nota,
because we have an obligation to the kingdom.
porque tenemos una obligación al
We have an
reino
obligation to you,
y a ustedes,
our supporters,
nuestros
our
afiliados,
friends and family,
amigos y
our
familia,
mishpacha,
nuestra mishpacha
spiritual mishpacha,
espiritual, y
realizing
física,
that Yahusha's words
reconociendo que las palabras de Yahusha
were true,
eran ciertas.
that once we were redeemed,
Y una vez que hayamos sido redimidos,
a new family we have,
tenemos una familia
so
nueva,
that our biological family
para que nuestra familia biológica
is secondary,
es secundaria
And our primary
Y
family
nuestra familia
are
principal
those who love Yahusha
son aquellos que aman a Yahusha,
and keep his
que
commandments.
guardan sus mandamientos.
Okay? And so, we truly apply that.
Y nosotros realmente aplicamos eso.
So even though it's our time off,
Y aunque es nuestro tiempo de reposo,
and I think a lot of people in the church when they go on vacation,
y
they
creo que muchas personas de la iglesia cuando se van de vacaciones
forget their obligations.
se olvidan de sus obligaciones.
But we have an obligation.
Tenemos una obligación,
Number one, according to Leviticus 23, verse
Primero,
1,
de acuerdo a Levítico 23:1,
to proclaim the times of Yahuwah.
proclamar los tiempos de
And
Yahuwah.
if we're not on the
Y
air,
si no estamos en el aire,
it's hard to proclaim.
es difícil proclamar
And to observe
y observar
and to lead by
y
example.
guiar por ejemplo.
So that, shalom everybody, Linda, Yirmiyahu,
Shalom.
Rivka, Brother Amos,
Toby,
we see everybody.
vemos a todos.
We're not ignoring your comments.
No
We see
estamos
them.
ignorando sus comentarios.
Sister
Our
Rivka,
screen is a little
Sister
limited.
Rivka is monitoring
Nuestra Rivka está monitoreando,
your comments
chequeando sus
from
comentarios
back home.
desde casa.
So we have an obligation
Así que tenemos una obligación,
to be faithful to you,
ser leales a ustedes,
since we're asking you to be faithful to
ya
us.
que estamos pidiéndoles que
So-
ustedes sean leales con nosotros.
My initial plan was
Mi plan inicial era
to vacation,
vacacionar,
but we can
vacacionar.
still vacation
Pero podemos seguir haciendo eso
and meet with you in a Mikra
y
Kodesh
reunirnos con ustedes en Mikra Kodesh,
at the appointed time.
en el tiempo señalado.
So praise Yah, and you really can't require people to be faithful if you're not willing to set aside time and be faithful and lead by example.
Y uno no puede requerir que la gente sea leal si uno no está dispuesto a guiar a los demás por su ejemplo.
Shalom, Linda. Shalom, Annie Mae.
Toby.
Shalom, Benjamin, Elder Benjamin. Shalom, everybody.
Shalom Anime from
Don't forget,
Norway.
please invite people. We're on the air. Invite them. Tell them. Give them the link
Invitan a sus
We're
amigos,
in the
seres
mountains
queridos. Estamos en las
of
montañas
Georgia.
de Georgia.
So if we get cut off, just refresh your page.
Así que si se
Yeah.
corta la transmisión, regresen.
In,
Renueven su página.
in Yahusha's name,
Refresquen la página.
we're not going to be cut off.
Pero en el nombre de Yahushua Mashiach no nos vamos a
In
desconectar.
Yahusha's name.
En el nombre de Yahushua Mashiach.
So let us go to today's Torah Parsha.
Vayamos a la parashá de Torah
If
de
you're
hoy.
just joining us, we will be on the air tomorrow for new month number 3,
Si acaban de unirse con nosotros, sí vamos a estar transmitiendo mañana para el tercer Jodesh. What time?
12 p.m.
A las 12 de la tarde.
It'll be a shorter
Tiempo de
service, but we
Florida.
will be on the air.
Será un tiempo más corto, pero estaremos en el aire.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Shalom.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Okay.
Tarrapa.
Bereshit 34.
Bereshit 34.
Week number 9, or Shabbat number 9 of the 52 weekly
Es el Shabbat
Shabbats.
noveno del año y estamos en la parasha novena y leyendo de Bereshit, Génesis 34. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, Sar of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her.
In other words, Shechem,
En otras palabras, Shechem,
like they did in those days,
como lo hacían en esos tiempos,
just took her.
solo se llevaban a las
They didn't ask
muchachas,
questions.
las arrebataban, secuestraban,
They
no
didn't-
pedían
They didn't
preguntas,
find out if she has a boyfriend.
no preguntaban si tenía novio, husband.
He lusted and he took her.
Él la anhelaba y se la llevó.
Dinah,
Dina,
Leah's daughter,
la hija de Lea,
and
en Jacob,
Yaakov's daughter.
yeah, and sister of Yehuda, Shimeon, Reuben,
And that's not the
I
way.
believe God.
That's not the way it should be done.
Y así no se debería de hacer,
Obviously,
obviamente.
but the depravity of and lust of men.
Pero la lujuria y depravidad de la humanidad,
That's the way they did it.
así era la costumbre. And that's why Abraham and Yitzhak said, this is my sister, so don't kill us.
Right.
Don't kill me, so you take my sister.
And I kind of identify with
My
that
wife.
because they didn't want unwanted persecution or someone
No querían
or
persecución.
someone messing around with their wife.
No querían que alguien maltratara a su esposa or to be killed. Y que los mataran. So they were not being evil, they were defending their
They were
lives.
protecting their mishpach.
Estaban protegiendo a su familia. And this custom was learned from the Nephilim, because they took wives. Y esta costumbre lo aprendieron de los Nafalim, los cananeos, porque ellos arrebataban a las esposas.
According to the book of Enoch,
De acuerdo al libro de
the
Enoch,
fallen watchers
los Irim o los
were not
acosadores
interested in
caídos
single women
no les interesaban mujeres
or
solteras
available
o
women.
mujeres que están disponibles.
They wanted to
Querían arrebatar,
steal
robarse
the wife
a las
From
esposas,
a married
mujeres
man.
casadas.
and one per angel.
Una por ángel.
They were not interested in plural.
No les interesaba vivir en convenio plural.
The fallen watchers were monogamous.
Los caídos eran monógamos.
It says clearly they each had one wife.
Dice claramente que cada uno se tomó una esposa.
You would think they were so evil
Uno pensaría que eran tan malvados
that they would have wanted to destroy many marriages.
que hubieran querido destruir a muchos convenios de bodas o matrimonios.
But Scripture says no.
Pero la escritura dice que no.
So we see they were definitely wicked.
Vemos que definitivamente eran malvados.
And that's the way it was done in those days.
Y así es como se hacía en esos tiempos.
And male,
Actually, they still do it in a lot of countries. They steal girls.
they take them.
And, todavía lo siguen haciendo en
I
muchos
mean,
países.
today they just repackage it, kind of like sex trafficking.
O no, they call it eloping.
Whatever they call it. But it does take place, but not in more of a clandestine thing.
Sí,
But
acontece en tráfico sexual o mucha gente básicamente secuestra a la niña, a la muchacha y la hace su esposa. I know many people in my country, Mexico, that women would get stolen and they would literally stay with that man and literally become their wife for the rest of their lives. But initially their marriage started off that she was sequestered.
Yeah, it said that they have no choice.
Inicialmente así iniciaban sus convenios en mi país y creo que en muchos otros se robaban a las muchachas, se casaban con ellas y la muchacha se quedaba con ese señor por el resto de su vida como su esposa.
I guess anything could work out.
Creo que cualquier cosa puede funcionar.
But what's interesting to note is that
Pero lo que es interesante saber es que
in the book of Enoch it says that when they would take other men's wives,
en el libro de Enoch cuando dice que se llevaban o robaban a las esposas de otros hombres,
they wanted to make it as painful as possible.
querían hacerlo lo más doloroso posible
And also to stop conception.
y para impedir la concepción.
So during intercourse,
Así que durante el intercambio sexual,
the angels would steal
los ángeles se robaban a la
The wife.
a la esposa,
and enter the wife
entraban a la
in
mujer
front of the husband.
enfrente del marido.
Now, not only did that completely disgrace the husband,
Y no solamente eso completamente desestimaba al marido,
but it stopped conception.
pero impedía la concepción.
And then they conceived
Y luego ellos concebían
half demons
mitad demonios,
and half humans.
mitad humanos.
So the purpose of stealing other men's wives
Así que el propósito
during
de
intercourse
robarle a las esposas a otros hombres durante la interacción sexual
had a dual purpose.
tenía propósito doble.
Stop human procreation
Impedir la procreación
and
humana,
hopefully a righteous zera
esperando que una cera recta
for Yahuwah.
para Yahuwah o original.
And the other was to present to Yahuwah
Y la otra era presentarle a
an
Yahuwah
unrighteous zera,
una simiente inrecta,
a hybrid
híbrida
of Nephilim.
de Nafalim.
Nephilim, and then eventually led to Nephilim culture,
Y con eso condujo a la cultura Nafalim,
which is a whole culture.
que es una cultura entera, which is this is culture,
You
Nafalim
you
culture.
could say that this
O uno podría decir que esto
in Bereshit
en
32
Bereshit 34
and 34, and this
esto es
that you see in the Olam
que lo
Hazeh,
que vemos en el mundo.
you may not see Nephilim on every street corner.
Quizás no veas Nafalim en toda esquina del mundo.
Now, some people say there are Nephilim, and I'm not arguing with that.
Algunas personas dicen que sí hay Nafalim, pero no estoy discutiendo con eso.
But even if they're not visible everywhere,
Pero aunque no estén visibles en donde quiera,
like before and after the flood,
como antes y después del diluvio,
the culture
la cultura
is on TV.
en
On the
el
internet.
televisor, en el
You
internet,
just take.
simplemente
You
arrebatas.
like it,
Te gusta,
you lust after it,
lo quieres,
you take.
te lo llevas.
And here we have a perfect
Y aquí
example
tenemos un ejemplo perfecto
of Hamor
de Hamor
and his son Shechem
y su hijo Shechem
practicing
practicando
Nephilim culture.
cultura Nafalim.
Just because you don't see giants
Solo porque no veas gigantes
and humongous skeletons
y esqueletos grandísimos,
doesn't mean you're not living in the middle
no quiere decir que no estés en medio de la cultura
of Nephilim culture.
de los Nafalim.
Okay, go ahead.
Alrighty, continue with verse 3. And his being, verso 3, Génesis 34:3, Genesis 34:3. And his being did cleave to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And he loved the young girl and spoke kindly to the young girl. She was a young girl.
So first he laid with her
Así que primero se acostó con ella
and then wanted to be with her.
y luego quiso ya tenerla por
Instead
esposa.
of getting to know her
En lugar de conocerla primero
and then laying with her.
y luego
So we
acostarse
see
con ella.
Nephilim culture
Así que vemos que la cultura Nefalim
is
es backwards.
exactly the opposite of
Es
Yahuwah's
lo
culture.
opuesto de la cultura de Yahuwah.
Yahuwah's culture is
Está al revés.
Erusin for a year
En la cultura de Yahuwah es estar en Eruzim por un año,
and then Nision,
compromiso, y luego Nisiún,
marriage.
convenio,
But for 1 year,
casarse, pero por un año entero.
there is betrothal,
Hay un compromiso
or in Hebrew,
y preparación, and preparation,
Erusin.
Eruzim.
None of this is happening here.
Nada de esto está aconteciendo aquí.
Shechem lusted,
Shechem le gustó
and Nephilim culture just took,
y la cultura de Nafalim simplemente arrebató a la muchacha.
just like the watchers took
Así como los Irim se llevaban a las mujeres
women at the height
en la cima
of their pleasure
de su placer
with their husbands
con sus maridos
to make it the most painful
para hacerlo lo más doloroso
and whip them out of bed.
y las sacaban de sus camas.
That's Nephilim culture.
Esa es cultura Nafalim.
Nephilim culture. So
Cultura de Nephilim.
it's still with us to this very day.
Y sigue con nosotros hasta, actually, the culture we live in is Nephilim culture, and we just don't know it. La cultura en que vivimos es cultura de Nephilim. Our culture as Israel is the one that's weird and awkward. Nuestra cultura como Israel es la extraña, la peculiar, and it goes against everything that we originally know. Y va en contra de todo lo que conocemos,
Yep.
which is Nephilim culture. Lo que es cultura Nephilim.
Yep.
And Shechem spoke to his Abba
Even if you go to the beach,
aunque vayas a la playa,
you want to enjoy your day at the beach with your family.
quieres gozar de tu tiempo en la playa con tu familia.
Nephilim culture will force this garbage
La cultura de Nafalim forzará esta basura
under your nose.
bajo tus
So
narices.
instead of talking to your wife,
Así que en lugar de hablar con tu esposa,
your eyes are wandering.
estás distraídos
And
tus
your
ojos.
poor wife is sitting there
Y tu pobre esposa ahí sentada
and has no attention,
y no tiene atención tuya.
right? So, I mean, this is all part of that. What are you laughing about?
That is true.
I'm not guilty of that.
No, I didn't say nothing.
You don't have to say anything.
Well, I didn't say it.
Do. Anyway, so we always have to be careful, have our antennas up
Yes, and close your eyes.
with Nephilim culture.
Siempre tenemos que tener las antenas extendidas y cerrar los ojos con cultura Nafalim.
Remember the old antennas, those
¿Se acuerda de las antenas?
UHF?
UHF.
It's like, where's the picture? Just move the antenna. We were watching an episode of All in the Family last night.
No, that was
Took a
like
couple
2
days,
yeah.
and Edith says, I can fix the TV. So she pounded on the floor, and every time she
Standing.
pounded on the floor, the picture came back. You guys remember those days? Now we complain about
No
live
se paraba para hacer la
live
antena
streaming. Back in
con el
those days, you
televisor.
remember the round little pequeñita
¿Se acuerdan de las antenas
UHF, Canal
redondas?
47,
Canal 51.
canal con lucha libre profesional, ¿acuerdo? and so don't move.
No te muevas.
But I gotta sit down.
Tengo
Shut
que
up.
sentarme.
Just hold the antenna.
Cállate.
You remember
La antena would have to be sacrificed.
you remember those
Tenía que haber
days?
una persona sacrificada to be the antenna, para hacer la antena.
Ay, ay, ay.
The human antenna.
That's also part of Nephilim culture.
Y eso igual es parte de cultura Nephilim.
Maybe.
Maybe G5. Okay.
Oh no. Stop the
Nephilim
G5.
culture. Okay.
Stop. Okay.
Continue.
G5 are the footmen.
We're in verse 5.
If the footmen are wearing you, and then we go to G7, how are you going to contend with horses? Okay.
With G5.
All right. So
Turn G5 back on.
when we go to G7, you're going to long for the days of G5.
Yes.
All right. So enough with that. Go ahead. Proceed.
And Shechem spoke to his Abba. Finally, he speaks to his Abba, Hamor, saying, get me this young girl to be my Isha. Oh, too late, Papa. Too late. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his silence until they had come. He was mad.
He was probably seething inside.
Sí, estaba súper enojado porque estaba manteniendo su silencio.
And that was his only daughter.
Y era su única hija.
He would have liked to have some kind of input
Le hubiera querido tener algo de...
to her future.
sí, de contribución a su futuro.
Yeah.
And Hamor, the Abba of Shechem, went out to Jacob to commune with him.
And by the way, you know what's funny? I mean, this just occurred to me.
Actually,
No, hold it,
What?
because I'm going to forget my thought. This just occurred to me.
se me acaba de ocurrir.
If I'm not mistaken,
Si no me equivoco,
the Hebrew word for donkey,
la palabra hebrea para asno
seriously, is hamor.
es Hamor.
So this
It
guy,
is Hamor. Así que este hombre,
who was a donkey,
quien era un asno,
raised
Hamor,
Shechem,
crió a un hijo Shechem,
which means the
the
shoulders.
shoulder of the donkey.
Between the shoulders, in other words,
Shechem quiere decir entre los hombros o hombros.
Shechem was the offspring,
Shechem, los hombros era el
or
hijo
came from between the shoulders,
que vino de entre los hombros.
and the loins. If you go all the way down the
Y
loins,
si bajo uno hasta,
between the shoulders,
hasta la cintura
and gave birth to
y hizo
Shechem.
nacer a Shechem.
So it was basically a donkey himself,
Así que básicamente era un asno él mismo.
or Donkey Kong Jr.
Donkey Jr.
Donkey Kong Jr.
Donkey Kong
And
Jr.
He's basically an ass off the old block. Because they were both asses.
Eran los dos asnos.
You get two asses for the price of one.
Dos asnos por el precio de uno.
So Yaakov is sitting there,
Jacob está ahí sentado.
and he must be seething.
Ha de estar súper enojado.
But I think that Yaakov doesn't want to overreact.
Jacob no quiere sobreaccionar.
Number one, because of the
reaccionar
repercussions.
a causa de las repercusiones.
But he knew his sons,
Pero él conocía a sus hijos.
and he knew that his sons were
Y
hotheads,
conocía que sus hijos eran de cabeza caliente.
specifically Levi,
Específicamente Leví,
Shimeon,
Shimeón
and Reuben.
y Reuben.
They
No,
were-
not
oh yeah, Reuben is unstable.
But he was more calm.
But he was unstable.
Reuben era
The
inestable.
point is, he knew his sons.
El punto es que él conocía a sus
So
hijos.
I think he wanted to strangle
Él quería ahorcar
uh,
a Shechem and his daddy.
Hamor and
Two
Shechem.
asnos.
Yeah,
A los dos asnos.
but if he overreacted, his sons would just jump out of control.
Ajá, y si él sobre reaccionaba, sus hijos iban a reaccionar fuera de control. Which
Is that your shirt?
it is.
Oh, what's nice for a change?
Yes. All right. So Hamor went to commune with Jacob, and the sons of Jacob, verse 7. The sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very angry, because he had wrought folly in Israel in line with Jacob's daughter, which thing should not to be done.
Now, by the way, if you're just joining us, we're studying today's Torah Parsha.
Si acaban de unirse con nosotros, estamos escudriñando la parasha
If
de
you're
esta
just joining
semana.
us,
Si acaban de unirse con nosotros,
we're in Bereshit 34.
estamos en Génesis 34.
Then we're going to go into an incredible
Y
testimony.
luego vamos a hablar de un testimonio increíble.
Then we're going to break and pay our
Y luego
tithes.
vamos a pagar nuestros diezmos y tener un descanso breve.
And we're going to go into today's teaching.
Y luego entrar a la enseñanza de hoy,
So just to let you know.
para hacerles saber.
Okay.
Okay, verse 8. And Hamor communed with them, saying, the being of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him to be his Isha. And make many marriages with us.
Now, this should have taken place in the beginning.
Esto debió haber tomado lugar antes del crimen.
Hamor is doing it the right way,
Hamor lo quiere hacer de manera correcta.
but
Too late.
too late.
Y eso es demasiado tarde.
Exactly. But this is actually the way father is supposed to go to father,
Pero así debería de ser papá, ir a hablar con papá.
assuming they have the same emunah,
Pensando que tienen la misma
which
creencia,
they didn't.
lo cual no
But at
tenían.
least this is the way to do it.
Pero por lo menos esta es la manera de hacerlo.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, Please give her to him to be his Isha. And make many marriages with us, and give your daughters to us, and take our daughters to you. In other words, they wanted to be a had now with these people.
Yeah, but see,
With Israel.
that's the spirit
Ven, este es el espíritu
of Nephilim culture.
de la cultura Nafalim.
That we want to mix
Queremos mezclarnos
the Kadosh Zera
la simiente Kadosh
with the unrighteous Zera.
con la simiente que no es Kadosh.
See, this is still Nephilim culture.
Ven, esto sigue siendo cultura
In other words,
Nafalim.
we'll give you our daughter
En otras palabras, les damos a nuestras hijas
if you give us your daughter.
si ustedes nos dan sus hijas.
So we'll become one
Así que seremos uno
without having the same
sin
emunah.
tener la misma fe. Unequal yoking, Shechem.
Let's be unequally yoked.
Tengamos yugo desigual. Yep. No.
We may have to shut the windows because of the garden.
Well, it gives real sound effects. We're in lumberjack town.
I'm just saying, we may have to shut it. Go
Okay.
ahead.
And so he's trying to propose being one nation, and you shall dwell with us. You can live with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade in it, and get possessions in it. And Shechem said to her Abba and her brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and what you shall say to me, I will give. Ask me much dowry and gift, and I will give it according as you shall tell me.
So Shechem is not really being humble. He's just trying to cover his lust.
Así que Shechem no está queriendo ser
Right.
humilde, está queriendo cubrir su lujuria.
And actually, in the attempt to cover his lust,
Y en el intento de cubrir su lujuria,
they're committing a follow-up sin,
están cometiendo un pecado continuo,
trying to take this Kadosh Mishpacha,
intentando tomar esta familia Kadosh,
through whom the whole world would be blessed and mixed,
a través de la cual todo el mundo sería Baruch, bendita y mixta,
and to assimilate them with pagan
y
culture
asimilarlos con la cultura pagana,
and wipe them out that way.
y borrarlos de esa manera, de completamente destruir su identidad de esa manera.
So if Yaakov had been agreeable,
Así que si Jacob hubiera acordado con esto,
even though he had just become Israel,
aunque había acabado de ser Israel, ajá,
okay, that would have been the end of Israel,
este hubiera sido el final de Israel,
because they would have been Echad,
porque hubieran sido Echad,
or
uno,
Basar
o
Echad,
Bazar Echad,
or one flesh
o una carne,
with the sons of Shechem
con los hijos de Shechem. Wow, yes.
and Hamor.
Y Hamor.
So it's not just about a girl being molested,
No solo se trata de
taken.
una
It's much
muchacha
more than
arrebatada,
that.
es mucho más que esto.
It's a satanic attempt
Es un intento satánico
to destroy the house of
de
Israel
destruir la casa de Israel,
that had just gotten off the ground.
que acababa de levantarse del suelo.
When Yahuwah met him on his way to meet Esau
Cuando Yahuwah lo encontró en camino a encontrarse con Esaú
and changed his name.
y transformar su nombre. Actually, may I say something else
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Going with what you said, this is exactly what we see. And we're talking about being in the mountains, but when we climb the mountains of Yahuwah, y esto hablando lo que usted acaba de decir, que this is how the enemy attacks. These are the Nephilim culture strategies. Esta es la manera que ataca el enemigo. When we go up to be in a high place, or we have a high with Yahuwah, cuando estamos y ascendemos a un lugar alto, a una situación elevada con Yahuwah, and when we go back down the mountain, y cuando volvemos a descender de la montaña, the enemy is waiting there to attack. El enemigo está esperando atacar. And so, like you were saying, Israel just had a high with Yahuwah, a success. Israel acaba de tener un encuentro de elevación con Yahuwah, un triunfo, and then they descend, they go back to life as normal, desciende, regresa a la vida como normal, and the enemy enters like a flood, y el enemigo entra como un diluvio to try to destroy what Yahuwah just did, para intentar destruir lo que Yahuwah acaba de hacer.
And we see that in Matthew
Y
17.
esto lo vemos en Mateo
They
17.
were up on the Mount of
Estaban en
Transfiguration.
la montaña de transfiguración,
And as soon as they got
y
down,
tan pronto como descendieron,
they were full of fear, doubt, and unbelief.
estaban repletos de temor, duda e incredulidad.
And they attacked Yahushua.
Y atacaron a Yahusha.
And they said, Yosha, we need you down here.
Y dijeron, Yahusha, le necesitamos aquí abajo.
We need your deliverance ministry.
Necesitamos su ministerio de
What are you
liberación.
doing hiding up on the
¿Qué
mountain?
está haciendo usted escondido en las montañas? And the same with Moshe.
And so learn that,
Y lo mismo con Moshe.
especially if you're new in Torah
Especialmente cuando son nuevos en Torah, aprendan esto.
and you're a new believer.
Cuando son creyentes nuevos,
Be very careful when you have a mountaintop
tengan mucho cuidado
spiritual
cuando
experience.
cuando acaban de tener una experiencia de cima en la
Because
montaña.
when you come down from the
Porque
mountain,
cuando descienden de la montaña,
there is an attack,
hay un ataque,
or pressure,
o hay una presión,
or stress
o un estrés
that is waiting
que está
to
esperando
steal your joy
robar tu júbilo,
and to steal your peace.
o robar tu shalom.
So if you're on a spiritual mountain,
Así que si estás en una montaña
you got your
espiritual, tienes tus
RST&E,
escrituras de
you
restauración,
got a good
tienes un
job,
trabajo top,
your health insurance
tu aseguranza de
kicked
salud
in, business is good.
ya está activada, tu negocio está funcionando.
Be careful.
Cuidado con el descender.
There's always a mountain.
Siempre hay una montaña.
What goes up
Lo que sube
comes down.
tiene que bajar.
Then it would have your antennas up.
Y levanten las antenas. And another thing, Sholiach, and there's more that I'll say after this. Y hay otra cosa que quiero decir. I'll say it now. Two more things. Dos cosas más. Like you were saying, this was a trap of the enemy. Como usted está diciendo, esta era una trampa del enemigo. Instead of Israel being the superpower of the world, en lugar de que Israel llegara a ser el superpoder del mundo, and all nations be mixed with, is to be absorbed by Israel, y que todas las naciones fueran absorbidas por Israel, Shechem was trying to absorb Israel instead and wipe out the identity. Shechem estaba queriendo absorber a Israel, borrar la identidad. They were
How?
still small.
Nephilim culture.
Entonces, a través de la cultura
You
nafelí.
join us,
Usted únese con nosotros.
we'll take what we want.
Nosotros tomamos lo que queremos.
In Israel,
En Israel,
everything's done with
todo se hace
holiness,
con apartación,
decently,
decentemente
and in order.
y en orden.
Okay? They try to become, like you said, assimilate Israel
Intentan asimilar a Israel
through their
a través de su
Nephilim culture.
cultura nafalim. And also
And we are called to be light and salt.
y somos llamados a ser luz, resplandor y malach, sal,
And bring the olam
y traer el olam
into our Israelite
a
culture.
nuestra cultura israelita.
Shalom, Elder Yahusef from
Shalom,
Brazil. Shalom. Thank you for the
Obrigados.
obrigados for joining us.
Toda Rabá por estar con nosotros.
And all of our friends in
Y
Brazil,
todos nuestros amigos en
in
Brasil,
Europe,
en Europa,
and around the
por
world.
todo el mundo,
We see you.
los vemos.
Come with us on this Shabbat
Vengan con nosotros en este Shabbat,
up to the mountains.
a las montañas
of Yahuwah.
de Yahuwah. The other thing, Sholiach, is that the pattern of marriage is whoever does the proposing is the superior or the stronger party, literally the husband. Otra cosa en el proceso de convenio de casamiento, el que propone el matrimonio o la unión es el más fuerte, es el marido. So Shechem would have been the husband between the two nations. Shechem hubiera sido el marido entre las dos naciones because Shechem is proposing the marriage covenant to Israel to invite them into their
To eliminate them
nation,
through assimilation.
invitándolos a su nación. So Israel is
And
right now
compromise.
the weaker nation. Así que Israel en este momento es la nación más débil. They're not giving Israel time to be the greatest nation. No le están dando tiempo a Israel a ser la nación mayor.
Mhm. Shalom, Michael from Trinidad. And
Shalom.
Shalom, Trinidad. And that is why,
Y esa es la razón por la cual, esa es la razón
Kedusha
que Tushá, la apartación,
is so important.
es tan
Because
importante.
Yahweh says, Be kadosh ki ani kadosh.
Porque Yahweh dice, sean kadosh porque yo soy kadosh.
Be set apart because I'm set apart.
Sean apartados porque yo soy
So
apartado.
in order for Israelite culture to prevail,
Para que la cultura israelita prevalezca.
Shabbat Shalom, Liave,
Lía Shulamit.
in order for Israelite culture to prevail,
Para que la cultura israelita prevalezca.
we have to overcome the tendency and the call
Tenemos que vencer la tendencia y el llamado
to assimilate
de ser asimilados
and
nosotros
join them.
y unirnos con ellos.
Who's them?
¿Quiénes son ellos?
All the
Nephilim.
sons of the donkey.
Todos los hijos del asno.
Hamor, Asno.
Hamor, asno.
It's a donkey.
Es un asno.
Shechem
Shechem
is the offspring
es el hijo
of the donkey,
del asno.
or Donkey Kong Jr.
Donkey Kong Jr.
So holy, well, it's not that important.
La
Without-
apartación no es tan
The
importante.
scripture says, without holiness, no man will see Yahuwah.
Las escrituras dicen que sin la apartación nadie va a ver a Yahuwah,
Because you will be felled,
porque serán
you will be toppled
tumbados
by Nephilim culture,
por la cultura nafalim,
who does not want to be separate,
que no quiere ser apartada,
but they want us
pero quieren que nosotros
to join
nos
them.
unamos con ellos.
So if we're going to be Israel,
Así que si nosotros vamos a ser Israel,
and we're going to claim to be
y si
Israel,
vamos a reclamar ser Israel,
being Kadosh
ser Kadosh
is a prerequisite.
es un prerequisito.
When Yahuwah made the first
Cuando
Israelite,
Yahuwah hizo al primer israelita,
Jacob,
Jacob,
did he do it in Times Square?
lo hizo en el cuadro de Times.
Did he do it in front
de
of
Tiempo.
everybody in San Paulo?
Lo hizo enfrente de todo el mundo en Sao Paulo.
Did he do it
Sao Paulo.
in the city square in Madrid?
Lo hizo en la ciudad, en el centro de la ciudad en Madrid.
No, he isolated him.
Lo aisló,
He set him
lo
apart,
apartó,
and
lo
Israel
separó.
was born.
Y nació Israel, Kadosh.
When Yahusha died
Cuando murió Yahusha
for our sins,
por nuestros pecados,
he didn't allow anybody there.
no permitió que todo el mundo estuviera ahí.
No trespassing.
No habían personas indebidas.
Other than the murderers,
Además de los asesinos,
nobody was there.
nadie estuvo
The
ahí.
apostles weren't
Los
there.
apóstoles no estaban
So in
ahí.
order to accomplish the finished work,
Así que para poder cumplir con la obra finalizada,
he had to separate
él
himself.
tuvo que apartarse a sí
He
mismo.
had to be kadosh,
Tuvo que ser Kadosh.
just to accomplish
Solo para cumplir
the finished work.
la obra finalizada. And the
Just like
last-
Adam and Eve. When Adam and Eve were alone, they did fine.
Así como Adán y Jabá cuando estaban solos, estaban top.
But as soon as someone joined them,
Pero tan pronto cuando alguien se unió con ellos,
the dragon,
el dragón
it wasn't a garden
no
snake,
era una viborita
it
cualquiera.
was a Leviathan
Era
serpent.
una serpiente leviatán,
Ugly, powerful.
fea, dinosaur,
And so
Godzilla.
they joined the snake culture.
Así que se unieron con la cultura de la serpiente.
But to be kadosh
Pero para ser Kadosh
is not an option.
no es una opción.
It's not that some of us are holier,
No es que algunos de nosotros somos más
or
apartados.
that Yahweh is trying to ask you to be holier than someone
O
else,
que Yahuwah te está pidiendo ser más Kadosh que alguien más.
so we can compare ourselves to ourselves.
Para poder compararnos a nosotros mismos con nosotros mismos.
No.
No.
Without holiness,
Sin esa apartación, Kedusha,
there is no Israel.
no existe Israel.
Because the Nephilim culture
Porque la cultura de los Nafalim
has you.
te
If
tiene.
you refuse to
Si
separate
te rehusas separarte
yourself,
a ti mismo.
not because mommy and daddy have a
No
religion,
porque mami y papi tengan su religión.
not because they're going to take you out of the will if you
No
don't believe in
porque
Jesus,
te van
they're
a-
going to take you out of the will.
No porque te van a excluir del testamento porque crees en Jesús. Te van a excluir del
That's the only
testamento.
way to be Israel.
Es la única manera de ser Israel.
And this is a battle here
Y esta es aquí una guerra
of the burgeoning, growing potential seed
de la simiente que está creciendo, desarrollándose,
of the house of Israel,
de la casa de
which
Israel.
would eventually be 3 or 4 billion people,
Que con el tiempo serían 3 a 4 billones de personas.
like today.
Como hoy.
Or it could have been wiped out.
O hubiera sido borrada.
And all of us today
Y todos nosotros hoy
would have been the seed of Shechem.
hubiéramos sido de la simiente de Shechem.
That's what this is.
Donkey Kong.
That's what this is all about.
De esto se trata todo esto. And Shulia, if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard this, probably commented by Elder Benjamin. I need to read that part of Yashar. But I believe that in Yashar it says that Shechem and the nation of Shechem was actually conspiring to destroy Israel. Creo que en el libro de Yashar habla que Shechem y Hamor, they were faking this righteousness. Estaban fingiendo esta rectitud,
Ajá.
pero en el trasfondo de su pensamiento querían destruir a Israel.
But you don't even need Jasher.
Pero ni siquiera uno necesita Yashar.
As we continue in this Torah
Al
parsha,
continuar en esta porción de Torah,
you're going to see
vamos a ver
their motive.
su motivo.
I saw that this morning.
Lo vi esta mañana.
Shalom, Herman, Pastor, a todos en Arizona.
Shalom, Aji Efraín.
Nice to have you with us. Marcelo, Shalom. Yehuchanan, everybody. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Nice to have you all with us.
Top tenerlos con nosotros.
Go ahead.
Continuando lectura, chapter 34, capítulo 34, verse 13, verso 13 of Bereshit, de Génesis 34:13. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his Abba deceitfully, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said to them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that has not performed Brit Milah, for that would be a reproach to us. But in this request, we will consent to you, if you will be as we are, that every male of yours performs Brit Milah. Here they're turning around the Israelite identity and saying, no, we won't accept unless you do this and you assimilate to our culture. Aquí le están volteando y dicen, no, esto no va a pasar. Si ustedes no, right here, what I see is Levi and Shimon are taking the stand for their identity. Aquí lo que estoy viendo es que Shechem y Levi están levantando el estandarte y protegiendo su identidad.
Yep.
They're saying, no, we're not going to be the weaker nation.
We're not going to assimilate.
We're not going to be the wife nation. Nosotros no vamos a ser la nación débil.
We're not going to assimilate, right?
Esposa. We're going to be the husband.
Right.
And you're going to do what we say.
We're the head.
Nosotros vamos a ser el marido. Ustedes van a hacer lo que nosotros requerimos. And if you want to join us, y si ustedes se quieren unir con nosotros, you will do as we tell you to do. Ustedes harán lo que nosotros les decimos hacer. So they were defending their identity. Jacob was trying to defend. He was again acting from fear of, okay, I don't want my family and my children to be destroyed, and trying to be in shalom with the nations. So to not be an aggressive, and he says, I don't want to be a stench before these nations later on.
I want also.
Jacob está defendiendo a su familia, queriendo
His sons are standing
funcionar
strong.
en shalom y prevenir una guerra, pero sus hijos están levantándose en fortitud de su identidad.
In other words, Levi is interceding
En otras palabras, Leví está intercediendo
as a Kohen
como un Cohen
against the assimilation
en
plans
contra de los planes de asimilación
of the sons of Hamor.
de los hijos de Hamor. There's that fervor for the identity
So
of
you
Israel.
see the DNA
Así que vemos que el ADN
of the priesthood
del ministerio de protección
standing in the gap
levantándose entre la
on
brecha
behalf of Israel,
a causa de Israel.
even in the case of Dinah,
Aún en el caso de Dina,
where Levi,
donde Leví,
and that later become that house of
que
Aaron,
después se convierte en la casa de Aarón,
from that tribe of Levi,
the Pinchas zeal,
Which-
el fervor de
that zeal
Pinchas,
for Yahuwah.
el fervor por Yahuwah.
We see that even
Lo
before
vemos aún antes de Pinchas,
Moshe established
antes de que Moshe estableciera
the Levitical
el
priesthood.
ministerio de Leví.
It's in their DNA,
Está en su ADN proteger.
in their genes.
Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
So,
Now, also something else we want to point out.
otra cosa que queremos señalar.
When Israel responded with an offer,
Cuando Israel respondió con su oferta, counteroffer,
which
su
was
contraoferta,
you have to be Brit Milah
ustedes tienen que hacer su Brit Milah, circuncisión,
and be like us,
y ser como nosotros,
like you were saying.
como usted estaba diciendo.
You come into our
Ustedes entran a nuestra familia,
kingdom,
a nuestro
the kingdom
reino,
of Yahuwah.
al reino de
We're
Yahuwah.
not going to adopt Nephilim culture.
Nosotros no vamos a adoptar cultura nafalim,
But here, the term Brit Milah or circumcision
pero aquí la frase Brit Milah o circuncisión
is a metaphor
es una metáfora
for the ways of Yahuwah,
para los caminos de
the
Yahuwah,
Torah of Yahuwah.
la Torah de Yahuwah.
Even though the Torah was not fully revealed to the entire nation
Aunque la Torah-
until the season of Shavuot.
Aunque la Torah no había sido completamente revelada a la nación de Israel hasta la temporada de Shavuot.
Doesn't matter.
No importa.
It's a metaphor
Es una
for
metáfora
all the halacha
para toda la costumbre, halajá,
and all the derachot
y todos los caminos
of Yahuwah.
de
It's
Yahuwah.
not saying, okay,
No está diciendo, ok,
if you guys, the family of Hamor,
si usted es la familia de Hamor,
want to be part of us
quieren formar parte de
and
nosotros
form one new
y
nation.
formar una nación nueva.
2 sticks,
Dos palos,
in a way.
más o
In a
menos,
way,
en
okay.
cierta manera.
All you have to do is be
Lo
circumcised.
único que tienen que hacer es ser circuncidados.
Now you read it that
Pero
way,
ustedes lo leen así
and it's written that
y
way.
está escrito de esa manera.
But that's not what the Ruach is saying.
Pero eso no es lo que está diciendo la Ruach.
When you agree to the covenant,
Cuando tú acuerdas al convenio
or to the outward seal of the
o
covenant,
al sello exterior del convenio,
which is Brit Milah,
lo cual es Brit Milá,
you are agreeing
estás acordando
to all the
con
terms
todos los requisitos
of the covenant.
del convenio.
You see?
¿Ven?
So when someone says, I have agreed to be
Así que
circumcised
cuando alguien dice, yo he acordado ser circuncidado
for Yahuwah,
por Yahuwah,
that's just a
eso es
synopsis
solo una sinopsis.
that you are willing to walk all the drachot
Que estás dispuesto a caminar todo el
and
camino,
all the halachot
todas las costumbres
of a Torah-keeping
de
Israelite.
un israelita que guarda
See, it's
Torah.
not limited
Ven, no se
because
limita,
people read this.
porque la gente lee esto.
The church,
La iglesia la iglesia
reads Genesis
lee
34
Génesis 34
and they say, oh, that's
y
baptism.
dicen, oh, ese es el
In
bautismo.
the Old Testament, it was circumcision.
En el Antiguo Testamento era la circuncisión.
All you gotta do is be
Pero
baptized.
lo único que tiene uno que hacer en este tiempo es ser
And
bautizado.
you're in a covenant
Y ya estás en un convenio
with Jesus Christ.
con Jesucristo.
No.
No.
Baptism means you will do whatever the Lamb tells you.
El bautismo te quiere decir que harás todo lo que el Cordero te instruye a hacer.
It doesn't mean you're going to go into the tank,
No quiere decir que vas a entrar al tanque.
and when demons see you go into the
Y
tank,
cuando los demonios te ven entrando en el tanque de inmersión,
you're going to scare them off.
los vas a asustar.
It doesn't mean that.
No quiere decir eso.
It's the token.
Es la señal.
Mikvah
Mikwa,
token.
señal.
That you're taking on
Que estás asumiendo
all the requirements
todos los requisitos
of discipleship.
de la instrucción.
Circumcision
Circuncisión,
doesn't mean anything.
no importa nada.
It is an outward agreement
Es un acuerdo
that you
exterior
are taking on
que estás asumiendo
all the terms
todos los requisitos
of the covenant.
del convenio. Like here, the terms of their covenant.
I want that to be clear
Como aquí, estos son los requisitos de este convenio. Quiero que esto sea claro.
because the token of the first covenant is Brit Milah.
Porque una de las señales del primer convenio es Brit Milá.
The token of the second covenant
Y la señal del segundo convenio
is Tefillah or
es
Mikvah.
tefilá o inmersión.
They're interchangeable
Son
terms.
intercambiables.
But that is it's not limited.
Pero no se limita.
That is not what discipleship is limited
A
to.
eso no se limita el aprendizaje en los caminos de Yahuwah.
Understand?
Entiendan eso.
That's what Paul means in
Eso es
Galatians.
lo que quiere decir Pablo en Gálatas.
If you're going to be
Si
circumcised,
vas a ser circuncidado,
that's fine.
top.
But
Pero,
as it is written,
como está escrito,
you must continue in all things that are written in the Torah.
tienen que continuar en todas las cosas escritas en Torah.
Don't just get circumcised because the rabbis or the circumcision club are coming down from Jerusalem and trying to make you do it.
No solo se circunciden porque los rabinos del club de la circuncisión de Jerusalén están requiriendo que lo hagan.
Why?
¿Por qué?
Because if you agree
Porque si
to
acuerdan
be circumcised,
a
As it is
circuncidarse,
written.
como está escrito,
you've taken on an
han
obligation.
asumido una
And
obligación.
as it is
Y
written,
como está escrito,
cursed is everyone
maldito es
who
todo
continues not in all the things that are written
que
in the
no
Torah.
continúan todas las cosas escritas en Torah.
So he's saying, don't put yourself under a curse.
Así que está diciendo, no se pongan bajo una maldición.
If you agree to be
¿Se
circumcised,
acuerdan ser
you
circuncidados?
are now in an agreement to do the entire instructions.
Están en acuerdo a hacer todas las instrucciones.
If you're baptized,
Pero si son bautizados,
you don't get to go to church.
no solo pueden ir a la
In the
iglesia.
New Testament, if you're baptized, you have to do all the
En el Nuevo
requirements
Testamento, si te has bautizado, es que tienes que hacer todos los requisitos
of discipleship,
del entrenamiento,
which includes keeping Shabbat,
que incluyen guardar
which
Shabbat,
includes keeping the Moedim.
guardar las fiestas.
See, just the opposite.
Es lo opuesto.
In the church system, I got baptized.
En el sistema de la iglesia, uy, ya me bauticé.
Yeah,
Sí.
that's a signal
Esa es una señal
to Yahusha
a Yahusha.
that you're ready for all of his
Estás
instructions,
listo para recibir todas sus
that you
instrucciones.
will follow the Lamb
Que seguirás al Cordero
wherever he
a donde
goes.
quiera que Él te lleve.
Not that you're wet,
No que estés mojado,
and you get to break Shabbat.
y puedes quebrantar Shabbat.
How ironic.
Qué irónico.
Instead of getting
En
baptized
lugar de ser inmergido
and then running to Shabbat
y
services,
luego correr a los servicios de
they
Shabbat,
take their baptism
toman su
as a
bautismo
license
como una
to run
licencia
to the Sunday system.
para correr al sistema dominical. Ujú.
The Sunday system is perfect
El sistema dominical es
for
perfecto
the sons of the donkey.
para los hijos del asno.
We are not hijos de asno.
Nosotros no somos the children of the donkey.
We are hijos del shamayim.
Somos hijos del Shemaim.
Del?
Children of
Del or de?
de
Del.
los,
Okay.
because it's plural.
I got that right.
De los Shemaim.
Del.
Los.
I got that right. You know why I got that right? Because I thought of Del Pickles.
Oh, I don't know about that.
The Del
That
Pickles.
does not make any sense.
It does make sense.
Lejain.
Because I don't have a problem with the word Del. So I was more likely to say Del than De, because there's no pickles named De, but there are pickles named Del. Now, if you understood all that, you're a genius. You're a bona fide genius.
I don't.
L'chaim. Continue. Adelante.
Continuation.
Adelante.
Adelante. Okay. But in this request, we will consent to you. If you will be as we are, that every male of yours performs Brit Milah. Then, when?
Then when exactly? Then
Will we give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to us.
when we see you living the whole.
Cuando veamos
The
que
Torah.
ustedes viven Torrente. But they didn't say the whole Torah. They just said one thing, Brit Milah.
They don't have to. It's just like Yahweh said to Adam, of all the trees you may eat, except
tenía
this
que
one.
ser. Uh-huh.
In other words, that was the first and greatest
But
commandment.
see, they were really not interested. They were faking this. They were
Right.
turning it on them because they were speaking deceitfully.
Yep,
And this was their trick
yep,
to get them where it hurt.
yep. They were,
Conseguirla donde les dolía más.
because the sons of Israel had been violated,
Porque los hijos de Israel habían sido violados.
they felt free
Ellos se sintieron libres
to play with.
de jugar y engañar.
Says, oh, you want to have sex
You
with,
want to play that
you want to
way.
have sex with our sister, okay,
¿Quieres tener
and marry her?
sexo con nuestra hija y casarse con ella?
Here's what you do.
Eso es lo que hacen.
But like you said, they had no intention.
Ellos no tenían la intención.
After what happened,
Después de lo que pasó,
they had no intention.
no redemption for the poor shepherd.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, there was more going on in the background. The Ruach was guiding us. Había más que estaba aconteciendo. See, when I first read this, I was, but Shechem, he wanted to make teshuvah, he wanted to be nice, blah, 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 blah. But no, if you read Yashar, there was evil in their back of their head, of Shechem and Hamor's head. They didn't have Tov intentions for Israel.
And you can see that later. It's not just
Y esto se puede ver después.
it's not just in Jasher.
No solo está en Yashar.
You can see that here.
Lo podemos ver aquí. Ve, cuando yo primero leí esto, pensé, oh, mira, qué gente quieren hacer arrepentimiento, teshuva, y después lees lo que pasa y dice, oh, Israel es perverso y malvado. You read this later, you think Israel is evil and harsh. But if you understand what's going on in the back of Shechem and Hamor's head, pero cuando entiendes lo que está realmente aconteciendo en las cabezas de Shechem y Hamor, which you see in Torah, like Sharia says, lo cual ves en Torah, but you also confirm with the second witness of Yashar, pero igual lo confirmas con el segundo testigo de Yashar, you know that the Ruach was guiding this whole thing. Sabemos que la Ruach estaba guiando esto, Leví and Shimeon.
For sure.
A Leví y Shimeon.
And we'll see that later. Go
Y
ahead.
lo veremos después. Verse 16.
Now, don't forget to stay
17.
with us because we have an incredible miracle. We're going to tell you about a miracle
Vamos a decir de un milagro
and a
y un
testimony,
testimonio.
and then we're going to get into the
Y
message.
luego vamos a entrar al
So
mensaje.
don't go anywhere.
Así que no se vayan.
We want all of you to stay with
We have
us.
a great
great-
follow-up message.
A great menu on the Shabbat.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh.
Baruch Hashem.
Verse 17. Genesis 34, 34, 17. But if you will not listen to us, if you won't listen to us to perform Brit Milah, then will we take our daughter and we will be gone. See ya. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man did not hesitate to perform Brit Milah because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. and he was more honorable than all in the país of Esaba. Oh, if that was the most honorable, who was the worst? Si ese era el más estimable, de mayor honor, ¿cómo eran los demás? In that sense, he was like hurrying up like Abraham. That's what you see in the surface. En ese sentido, estaba apurándose como Abraham a hacer Brit Milá, pero es lo que se ve en la superficie. He was the most honorable. Don't forget that. Yeah. Él era el más estimable. No se olviden de eso. Verse 20. And Hamor and Shechem, his son, came to the gate of their city and communed with the men of their city, saying, these men are in Shalom with us. Wink, wink. Therefore, let them dwell in the land and trade in it. They wanted their business.
Now you're getting to
Querían
the
su
point.
negocio. They wanted their riches. They saw what Israel was about, the braca. Sabían de lo que se trataba Israel. Querían la braca de Israel. And then they said, for look at the land. It is large enough for them also. Let us take their daughters to us for our wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only in this manner will the men consent to dwell with us, to be one people. If every male among us performs Brit Milah, as they are in Brit Milah, shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs become ours?
Now, right there, what verse is that?
Verse 23, el verso 3. Aquí nos da la clave.
Look at Bereshit 34.
Vean en Bereshit 34, 23.
23. Genesis 34, 23.
24, 33.
That was the plan.
Este era el plan
For him
para que él
to get the girl,
consiguiera la muchacha
and then
y luego
to assimilate,
asimilarlos,
eliminate the house of Israel,
eliminar la identidad y la
take
casa de
their
Israel,
cattle,
tomar su ganado,
take their substance,
todas sus posesiones,
take their provision,
toda su ayuda,
to suffocate them
sofocarlos, ahorcarlos,
from being viable
de ser viables, de ser Israel,
through assimilation,
a través de la
to
asimilación,
kill the Kadosh
para
Zerah,
matar la simiente Kadosh,
and financially
y financieramente
to freeze
congelar
their finances
sus finanzas
by stealing,
al robar,
robbing. So this is the motive right
Este es
here.
el motivo. This is how they convinced the people. Así es como
In other words,
convencieron al
what's in
pueblo,
it for
the
Shechem?
rest of the people.
What's in it for Shechem?
En otras palabras, ¿qué le interesa a
If
Shechem?
he becomes circumcised,
Si él sí se circuncida,
what's in it for Shechem?
¿qué está motivando a Shechem?
A wife that he's lusting for.
Una esposa al que está
But the
anhelando.
rest of you,
Pero el resto de ustedes,
here's what's in it for you.
para estos viene esto, para ustedes viene esto.
We take their
Les quitamos su
the
ganado,
wealth
su riqueza
that Yahuwah gave
que
Israel.
Yahuwah les dio a Israel. See, they were still, this is how big and awesome is Yahuwah. Así de grande es Yahuwah y maravilloso. Remember the gift that Jacob gave to Esau? ¿Se acuerdan el regalo que Jacob le dio a Esaú? He literally gave them droves, like sections and big portions of his cattle. Literalmente le dio grandes porciones de su ganado. And they still had a lot, enough for these people to lust after their livestock. Y todavía les quedaba tanto que esta gente quería quitárselos.
That's how much they had.
Así de tanto tenían. Israel is the original cowboy culture.
Correct. It was,
Israel es la cultura original
that reminds me of this.
de vaqueros.
That reminds me of the scripture.
Eso me recuerda de la escritura.
When we are Israel
Cuando somos
and
Israel
we love Yahushua
y amamos a
and
Yahusha
we keep his Torah,
y guardamos su Torah,
it says
dice,
he has laid up the wealth
Él ha dado la
of the
riqueza
nation.
de las naciones
For us.
para
He will
nosotros.
give us
Nos
the
dará
wealth of the nation.
la riqueza de las
And then
naciones.
Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 8 tells us why.
Y luego de Barim al capítulo 8 nos dice por qué.
So we could print,
Para poder imprimir,
so we could proclaim,
para poder proclamar,
so we can distribute.
para poder distribuir.
If we're broke,
Si estamos en
if
quiebra,
everybody in the
si
kingdom
todo el mundo en el reino
is broke,
está en quiebra,
then we cannot establish the covenant
entonces no podemos establecer el
with
convenio
others
con otros
who are not yet in the
que
covenant.
todavía no están en el
If you
convenio.
read Devarim chapter
Si
8,
tú lees de Barim 8, Deuteronomio 8,
Yahuwah promises to make faithful citizens, born again citizens
Yahweh promete
of Israel rich
hacer que los ciudadanos nacidos de nuevo
Without
de
the
Israel
government.
sean ricos sin el gobierno.
And then he tells you
Y
what?
luego te dice, ¿por qué? ¿Para qué?
That you may what?
Para que tú puedas ¿qué?
Establish
Establecer
my covenant.
mi convenio.
Where?
¿En dónde?
Among the Nephilim
Entre
culture.
la cultura nafalim,
To plunder
para quitarles, desposesionar
the gates of Gehenna.
las entradas de Gehenna.
That's why.
Para eso.
So the world,
Así que el mundo,
Nephilim culture steals money
la cultura de nafalim se roba el dinero
to do
para hacer
ra'ah.
maldad.
Israel is
Israel
entrusted
se le ha encomendado
with wealth
riqueza
to establish
para
the
establecer
covenant
el convenio
among Nephilim culture.
entre la cultura nafalim.
Yes, my brother Edia. Yes, it's beautiful mountains. Beautiful to drive through. Absolutely. And it's even nicer to stay for a week. If it's nice to drive, how much nicer is it to stay?
Yes.
Especially when you have good company. But we miss Rebitz and Rivka as well.
Yes. And y'all,
We're a good company.
we would like to bring the whole community.
Three's Company.
At
Wasn't
some
that
point.
wasn't that a TV show?
Yes.
Three's Company. That used to be one of my favorite shows. Speaking of Nephilim culture. Oh, they were shacking up.
I don't know, but okay.
Yeah, that was Nephilim culture.
Jack was kosher, okay?
Jack was not kosher.
That was,
Jack was
I don't know. I didn't see that enough.
There was
Anyways,
Jack, there was Chrissy,
it was
and
goofy.
there was one other chick.
Tiffany, no?
What's happening?
Tiffy, something.
I
The
forget.
blonde.
Suzanne Summers and the other one. Yeah.
The blonde and the brunette.
Yeah. Okay. Continue.
Okay. So only in this manner will we consent to dwell with us. Oh, shall not their cattle and their substance, verse 23, verso 23, Bereshit Genesis 34, 34, 23, 23. Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs become ours? Only let us consent to them and they will dwell with us. In other words, they'll stay here and we'll absorb them.
We'll steal their
Se
goods.
quedarán aquí y nos los tragaremos.
And all we have to do is be
Y
circumcised.
lo único que tenemos que hacer es ser
See, and that's what
circuncidados.
Paul's talking about in
Y
Galatians.
de eso está hablando Pablo en Gálatas.
These rabbinical clowns, and we're going to talk about that in today's
Estos
message,
payasos rabinicales de los que vamos a hablar en el mensaje de hoy,
that are coming from Jerusalem,
que
are
están
telling you,
viniendo de Jerusalén, te están diciendo,
all you got to do is be circumcised.
lo único que tienes que hacer es circuncidarte
And then you'll be welcome
y luego serás recibido
as a Pharisee,
como un fariseo,
following the Talmud
siguiendo el Talmud
and the Torah Shebel Peh
y la Torah Shebel
and
Peh
the oral law.
y la Torah oral.
That's all you got to do. And Paul said, if you are
Y Pablo
circumcised
dice, si son circuncidados,
without knowing who you're
sin
accepting,
saber a quién están
or if
aceptando,
you're circumcised under the authority of the rabbis,
o
the
si son
Pharisees,
circuncidados bajo la autoridad de los rabinos, los fariseos,
you have fallen from grace.
han caído de la ternura de Yahuwah.
Messiah is of no effect
Mas el Mesías no tiene efecto
to you
a ustedes
if you become
si se
circumcised
circuncidan
under their authority.
bajo su autoridad.
He's not saying don't be
No está
circumcised
diciendo que no seamos circuncidados.
in the book of Galatians.
En el libro de Gálatas
He is saying
está
if
diciendo,
you're circumcised under their
si se
authority,
circuncidan bajo su autoridad,
just like if the sons of Hamor
así como los hijos de Hamor,
were circumcised
si se circuncidaron
and didn't live in the whole kadosh
y no
lifestyle
vivieron en la vida Kadosh entera,
required for Israel,
requerida para Israel,
their circumcision was a trick
su circuncisión era un truco
to get money
para conseguirse dinero
and to get their cattle.
y su ganado.
Just like in Galatians,
Así como en Gálatas,
it was a trick
era un truco
to steal disciples.
para robar a los aprendices.
Circumcision was a trick.
La circuncisión era un truco.
I'm going to go slow here,
Aquí voy a ir
because some
lento,
of you don't understand
porque
this.
algunos de ustedes no entienden esto.
The circumcision that was offered
La circuncisión que se ofreció
by the rabbis,
por los
the
rabinos,
Pharisees
los
of
fariseos
those days,
de esos
was
tiempos,
a trick,
era un truco.
era
un truco
to steal their heart
para robar sus corazones
from the Lamb,
del Cordero,
from
de
Mashiach,
Mashiach,
and turn them into
y
disciples
convertirlos en aprendices
of Hamor.
de Hamor.
It was a trick.
Era un truco.
And Paul said,
Y Pablo dijo,
if you are
Si
circumcised
tú eres circuncidado
by the pressure
por la presión
coming from Jerusalem,
viniendo de Jerusalén,
you're about to lose
estás a punto de perder
your emunah
tu emuná
in Mashiach.
en Mashiach.
Because you're going to no longer be his
Porque ya no vas a ser de él,
disciple.
su apréndice.
You're going to be there.
Vas a ser apréndice de ellos.
That's what's happening
Esto es lo que está
in the
aconteciendo
book of Galatians.
en el libro de Gálatas.
Paul has no authority
Pablo no tiene autoridad
to contradict Torah.
de contradecir Torah.
And he didn't.
Y no lo hizo.
He's trying to save
Está intentando rescatar
disciples
aprendices
from apostatizing
de apostatar
into what would morph
a lo que sería transformarse
into rabbinic Judaism.
al judaísmo rabinical.
Continue.
Continuando. Génesis 30.
So if we're really spiritual, we're not impressed with circumcision or baptism. We're impressed with people who are kadosh and have renounced Nephilim culture. Then you were shacking up, you were cheating, you were breaking covenant because you had lust in your heart. You succumb to Nephilim culture. There's only one way out of Nephilim culture. It's not studying the scriptures. It's not being baptized. It's not circumcision. It is a complete turnaround in lifestyle.
Solo hay una manera de escapar la cultura nafalim, no es a través de la circuncisión, ni de la inmersión, ni de vivir lo superficial de esta vida. Es cambiar tu vida, cambiar de tu interior y tu exterior y caminar en los caminos de Yahweh en obediencia, pero con un corazón circuncidado. Brit Milah of the Leb, right? Leb Brit Milah.
Amen.
Okay, continuing the reading, continuando la lectura. I think this is the teaching.
I'm not sure.
Creo que esta es la enseñanza.
We'll just be led by the Ruach.
Genesis 34, Génesis
It's
34,
possible. It's possible.
24. And to Hamor and to Shechem his son listened all that went out of the gate of his city. And every male performed Brit Milah, including all that went out of the gate of his city.
Because they saw Brit Milah as a way to what?
Vieron Brit Milah como la manera de become rich, de enriquecerse, with the riches of Israel, con las riquezas de Israel, of
And as
Yahuwah.
many in the church can tell you,
Y como muchos en la iglesia les pueden decir,
and many in Judaism
y
can tell
muchos
you,
en el judaísmo,
religion is good business.
la religión es excelente negocio.
Religion is very good business.
La religión es excelente negocio.
And that's one of the ways we know. You may not know it,
Esa
but
es
we
una
know
manera de la que nosotros sabemos
that my
que
family
mi familia
and this ministry
y este
is not
ministerio
religious.
no es religioso.
Because you don't, if you have $15,000 in the bank,
Porque si tú tienes $1,500 en el banco,
you don't take 13,000
no tomas 13,000
and print Bibles
para imprimir Biblias,
to distribute the word of
para
Yahuwah
distribuir la palabra de Yahuwah
and leave yourself with a couple of
y
$1,000.
dejarte con un par de $1,000.
Okay, those are people, those kind of people.
Ese tipo de
And I like to
personas,
think that we're like that.
y me gustaría pensar que somos así,
Want to use the money
quieren usar el
to
dinero
establish the
para
covenant,
establecer el convenio,
not to enrich
no
themselves.
para enriquecerse a sí mismos.
But shysters
Pero los ladrones
and charlatans
y charlatanes
have found out
han descubierto
in Judaism and in
en
Christianity
el judaísmo y en la
that
cristiandad
if religion is good
que
business,
la religión es excelente
religion
negocio.
is good business.
La religión es excelente
They sell
negocio.
handkerchiefs,
Venden
oil, all kind of snake oil.
pañuelos, aceite.
Okay, so yeah, we do ask for money.
Sí, sí pedimos dinero.
Yeah, we do.
Sí,
But you
but it's to
know,
continue the work.
but it is to establish
Para
the
establecer
covenant.
el convenio.
Nobody cleans out their bank account
Nadie vacía su cuenta bancaria,
unless they're trying to establish the
solo
covenant.
que quieren establecer el convenio.
But there are shady people
Pero si hay personas
like the
engañadoras,
sons of.
como los hijos de él,
They all got circumcised.
y todos se circuncidaron.
If that's the way we can get their
Y
property,
así es como se pueden conseguir su propiedad.
wonderful. I'm
Excelente.
circumcised.
Ya me circuncidé,
Just like in the church.
como en la iglesia.
I'm christened.
Ya me bauticé.
I'm Christian. I was mikvah. I was baptized as a baby.
Fui inmergido como bebito.
So what?
¿Y qué?
So what?
¿Y qué?
You must be born
Tienes
again.
que nacer de nuevo.
If you're circumcised
Si eres circuncidado
and
y
baptized,
bautizado,
which means you've entered the token of both
que
covenants.
quiere decir que has entrado en la señal de ambos convenios.
All that means is you're required
Lo único que eso quiere decir es que eres requerido
to submit
someterte
to the entire book.
al libro entero.
That's all it means.
Es lo único que quiere
It
decir.
doesn't mean now you don't do anything else.
No quiere decir que ya no tienes que hacer nada
Or you can
más.
start peddling religion.
O que puedes comenzar a vender religión. The other thing is,
How do I know I'm being deceived?
¿cómo sé que estoy siendo engañado?
Let me help you.
Déjenme ayudarles.
When you hear a preacher on TV,
Cuando escuchas a un predicador en la televisión
say,
decir,
send in your gift,
envía tu regalo,
send in your donation,
envía tu donativo.
and as soon as we get your
Y tan
gift,
pronto como recibamos tu regalo,
we're going to pray for you.
vamos a orar por ti.
You're being snake oil.
Estás siendo engañado.
A true ministry prays for people,
Un ministerio real ora por la
whether they
gente.
write in,
Si escriben,
whether they give,
si dan
or they don't give.
o no dan.
They have a time
Tienen un tiempo
where they pray.
en donde oran.
If you let them know
Si tú les haces saber
that you have
que
needs,
tienes necesidades,
they pray.
ellos
They
oran.
don't say when you write in,
No quiere decir, no dicen cuando
when you
escriban,
send me a
cuando
check,
me envíen un cheque,
I'll pray for it.
oraré por
As soon as we get your check,
ustedes. Tan pronto como recibamos su cheque,
right? You hear that on TV. No, man, you're being played.
están siendo engañados.
So if I don't send you a letter, you're not going to pray for me.
Así que si no le envío una carta, no va a orar por mí. Ajá,
That's religion.
esa es religión.
In this
En
ministry,
este ministerio
we have Wednesday night.
tenemos los miércoles por la tarde.
Don't you dare send me $1.
No me envíen ni un solo dólar.
Prayer is free.
La oración es regalada.
Whether you give us support or
Si
don't
nos
give
dan
us support,
apoyo o no,
we try to be honest
intentamos ser sinceros
before Yahuwah.
delante de Yahuwah.
Baruch Hashem.
And the other thing, Julia, is that I've seen a lot of believers, lamentably. He visto muchos, or not a lot, but several. He visto varios creyentes that only want to come to the things of Yahuwah for the riches of Israel. Que solo quieren venir a las cosas de Yahuwah por las riquezas de Israel. And they're not interested in the true reward. Y no les interesa el real galardón, which is Yahuwah himself, que es Yahuwah mismo. In the kingdom of Yahuwah, what we consider so valuable, en el reino de Yahuwah, lo que nosotros consideramos tan valioso, is the asphalt of the roads. Es el asfalto de los caminos. The streets in the kingdom of Yahuwah are made of gold. That tells you where the values are put. Las calles de Yahuwah están cubiertas de oro. Ahí es donde se ve dónde están las riquezas de este mundo. Gold in the kingdom is for road work. Civil engineering es para el trabajo de las calles, ingeniería civil. What were they calling it? The infrastructure. Building, making the kingdom better through gold. No, yeah, the streets, yeah. But what really makes the kingdom of Yahuwah, what is the kingdom of Yahuwah, is the king. Lo que hace el reino de Yahuwah, lo que es perfecto es el rey. Our reward is the king, not the gold of the king. Nuestro galardón es el rey, no el oro del rey. The gold of the king is to line the streets. El oro del rey es para cubrir las calles, la superficie de las calles. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
Praise Yah.
So, and to Hamor and to Shechem, his son, listened to all that went out of the gate. So they're literally gathering.
They're signing up.
Yeah, they're literally registering
They're
people
signing
for
up.
the multi-level marketing.
How many cows am I going to get in this religious game?
¿Cuántas vacas me van a dar?
I have faith in this religious game.
And they were bring me line right then and there.
Heck yeah.
Oh, man.
Bring me a screwdriver.
Y ahí estaban cortando
Bring me a bottle cap.
the chainsaw. Ay,
Listen, the
ay.
rabbis are so desperate to make you their disciples in their religious game
Los rabinos.
that they have in rabbinic Judaism they have something called, because we make fun of the sons of Hamor, but in rabbinic Judaism
En el judaísmo rabinical tienen un sistema. Nos estamos riendo de los hijos de Hamor, pero en el judaísmo
called Hatafadam.
se llama Hatafadam.
which brings you under their direct authority.
que te pone bajo su
So,
autoridad directa.
Let's say you're ill,
Digamos, estás enfermo
or you can't handle a
o
circumcision
no puedes aguantar una circuncisión
at the age of 60.
a la edad de 60.
So the rabbis say,
Así que los rabinos dicen,
take a little pin
tomamos una plumita,
and you prick.
no, un alfiler y te
Little pin and you prick.
y te hacemos un hoyito.
No, I didn't use a
Te
bad word.
pellizcamos.
I'm using it as a verb. If you prick,
Si pellizcas o si le hieres un poquito.
I'm using it as a verb. If you prick the extension cord
Si eres un poquito el pene
and you draw even a drop of blood
y con una sola gotita de sangre
from the male extension cord.
del pene masculino. por
No, you don't have to say
del
that.
pene.
You don't have to say that word. Extension
I
cord.
don't want to say that either.
But you just said the other word.
Okay.
Extension cord.
That.
Guarda extensiano. So look, the rabbis say, look,
Los rabinos dicen,
if you take a pin
si tomas un alfiler
and you just tick,
y haces
and you get a drop of
abres
blood,
un poquito para sacar tantita sangre,
igual
es igual a
como Brit Milah.
igual a ser Brit Milá.
This is the stupidity
Esta es la tontería
of religion.
de la religión.
So with that logic, I can take an earring,
Así que con esa lógica puedo tomar un arete,
stick it on my tongue,
puedo ponérmelo en la lengua,
okay, and bleed,
sangrar
and say it's circumcision.
y decir circuncisión.
Where do the rabbis get the chutzpah
¿De dónde sacan los rabinos la
to
chutzpah
take a pin,
de tomar un alfiler,
prick the male part,
perforar el pene
and call it a circumcision?
y decir que esa es una circuncisión?
This is the stupidity
Esta es la tontería
of religion.
de la religión.
But remember,
Pero acuérdense,
religion sells.
la religión vende.
Religion's good business,
La religión es excelente negocio.
and that's what's going on here.
Y es lo que está aquí
They're going to
aconteciendo.
buy into their religion.
Van a comprar y vender en su religión.
Para mamón.
Verse 25, verso 25.
And that's why Paul is so upset in
Y
Galatians.
por eso está tan enojado Pablo en Gálatas.
The rabbis were using the hatifas dam,
Los rabinos estaban usando la dam
that
hatifaz,
little pin,
ese
and say, okay,
alfilercito,
you don't belong to
y
Mashiach
decir,
anymore.
ya no pertenecen a Mashiach más.
Come with us.
Vengan con nosotros.
They were stealing
Estaban robando
Talmidim.
talmidim.
And Paul said, if you're willing to do
Y
that,
Pablo dijo, si están dispuestos a hacer
you
eso,
have fallen from
han
grace,
caído de la ternura de
you don't
Yahuwah.
know grace,
No conocen la gracia,
and you
ternura de
don't
Yahuwah,
belong to him.
y no le pertenecen a Yahusha.
Galatians is the most powerful book
Galatas es el libro más poderoso
in favor of Torah.
a favor de Torah,
In favor of Torah.
a favor de Torah.
If you know how to use
Si
it.
sabes cómo usarlo,
And if you know how to properly
si
understand it.
sabes cómo entenderlo
And if you
correctamente.
don't,
Y si no,
in
en
Galatians,
Gálatas
we have it all for you,
lo
man.
tenemos todo para ti.
Check this out.
Ve esto.
Let's assume you don't understand how to interpret
Digamos que
Galatians.
tú no sabes interpretar Gálatas.
Look at this.
Mira aquí.
We'll find Genesis 34. Look at
Nos
this.
encontraron Génesis
Now watch.
34.
This right here
Vean esto. Esto aquí
is the scripture.
es la escritura.
Everything below
Todo lo que está aquí abajo
are study notes.
son notas de escudriñar, de estudio.
So we explain to you
Así que aquí les estamos explicando
what's going
lo
on
que está aconteciendo
in Galatians.
en Gálatas.
The only scriptures in the world
Las únicas escrituras en el mundo
that will teach you
que te enseñarán
that the book of Galatians
que el libro de Gálatas
teaches Torah.
enseña Torah,
What it warns you
pero te advierte
is switching your
de
authority
cambiar tu autoridad
from the lamb
del cordero
to the Pharisee.
a los fariseos.
Praise Yah.
Exaltado sea Yahuwah.
Back to Genesis
De
34.
nuevo, Génesis 34, 34, verse 25. Verso 25. And it came to pass on the third Yom, resurrection, when the men were still sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Shimon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took each man his sword, 2 swords, 2 houses, 2 espadas, 2 casas, and came,
Representing the two.
representando las 2 casas,
Yep.
and came upon the city boldly and killed all the males.
And yeah, hold on one second. And yeah, I'm going to stop this because it's very important
Voy a parar esto
that
porque
every
es muy
serious student
importante
has
que
this.
todo aprendiz serio tenga esto.
So it's rstne.com.
Vayan a la página rstne.com.
Brother Alamo, it's rstne.com.
rstne.com, rstne.com, or you can look for it in our Etsy store.
Or go to Etsy.
Not today and not tomorrow. Ni hoy ni mañana. Do it on Monday. Háganlo el lunes.
Or go to
There's
Etsy.
no buying or selling today or tomorrow. Hoy no se vende ni se compra. Hacemos negocio hasta el lunes.
Or go to Etsy
O pueden ir a Etsy or our webpage.
and type in Restoration Scripture.
Pueden escribir las escrituras de restauración.
Thank you for asking.
Todo va por
See, now
preguntar.
there's someone who wants to be
Ve.
who is a serious
Ahí hay
student.
alguien que es un aprendiz serio. But do it on Monday if you're really serious.
Right. So we have
Háganlo el lunes.
in Galatians, there's 500 study notes
En Galatas hay 500 notas de
to
estudio
fix all the mess
para arreglar toda la ruina
of misinterpretation.
de la mala interpretación. Continue.
Continuing.
So, they took each man his sword, tomó cada uno su espada, and came upon the city boldly and killed all the males. And they killed Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword. And took Dinah out of Shechem's bait and went out. Mission impossible. Mission imposible. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and not only that, they plundered the city. They did to them what they were going to be done to them. Les hicieron a ellos lo que les querían hacer a Israel. They plundered the city because they had defiled their sister. Dowry. They took their sheep and their oxen and their donkeys and all their donkeys.
So they plundered the house of Hamor.
Así que, les quitaron
Just
las
like the
casas
house
a la
of
casa de
Hamor
Hamor.
thought that by being
Como la
circumcised,
casa de Hamor pensaron que al ser circuncidados
they can do more evil
podían hacerle más
and
maldad
plunder the house of
y
Israel.
robar a la casa de Israel.
Hallelujah. And what does that mean? If Yahweh
¿Qué quiere
is
decir
for us,
Si Yahweh está por
as
nosotros,
born again Israel,
como Israel nacido de nuevo,
who can stand against
¿quién
us?
puede estar en contra de nosotros? But Brit Milá came in handy. Pero Brit Milá les ayudó. All right. And they took their sheep and their oxen and their donkeys and that which was in the city and that which was in the field.
Why? Because it was a spiritual warfare.
Era una guerra espiritual.
And Yahweh allowed them to do
Y
that,
Yahweh les permitió hacer eso
to revenge the
para
actions
vengar las acciones
of that Nephilim culture.
de esa cultura nafalim.
So Yahweh gave the victory
Así que Yahweh les dio el triunfo
through that mighty rehearsal.
a través de ese ensayo maravilloso.
Thank you, Ari. You got your copy, my brother?
Ari, yale.
Don't forget, what we need is when you got your copy of the RSTNE,
No se olviden que cuando reciban su copia de las escrituras de restauración y edición del nombre verdadero en inglés,
do me a favor.
háganme un favor.
Take a picture
Tomen una foto
of you
de ustedes
with it
con
and
ellas
send it to us.
y envíennoslas.
Okay, we're going to be using it on our website
Estamos usándola en nuestra página web
and for
y
promotion.
para
So
promoción.
if you're happy with your
If you're
RSTNE,
happy and you know it, take a picture.
take a picture
Tómense una foto
of yourself
con ustedes y sus escrituras.
with the RSTNE, and we'll use it to promote the word.
Y la vamos a usar para promover la palabra.
Thank you.
And also, give them the tip of the gold leaf.
Thank you, Ari. I appreciate that.
Give them the tip about
And
the gold.
something else,
Otra cosa,
if you really want to help
si quieren ayudar
and see it as an ongoing
y
project,
verlo como un proyecto continuo,
please, if you can,
si pueden, por favor,
buy an extra copy.
cómprense una copia extra. But tell them about this.
That's okay. That's not a problem.
Okay, continuing.
Continue. Yeah.
So, and all their wealth. Okay, so they took that which was in the city and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives they took captive, and plundered even
Say that again.
their wives they took captive. So they lost everything.
Because they took Dinah unlawfully,
Por cuanto tomaron a Dinah sin ilegalmente,
Yahweh allowed the plundering
Yahweh permitió que ellos
of their homes.
les quitaran todas sus cosas, sus casas.
That reminds me
Y eso me
of,
recuerda,
you say, well, why would Yahweh
Y uno se pregunta por qué va Yahuwah a permitir
allow Israel to take their wives?
que se lleven sus esposas.
Well, number one, in the Torah, we have the provision
En primer lugar, tenemos en Torah la provisión
of a captive woman.
de una mujer cautiva.
This is a battle.
Esta es una guerra. This became a battle.
became a
war.
battle.
Esto se convirtió en una
And
guerra.
in Torah, Yahuwah allows Israel to take a captive
Y
woman.
en Torah, Yahuwah permite que una mujer sea llevada cautiva de guerra, because of war.
That's right.
Only.
And that's what happened here.
Y es lo que aconteció aquí.
And there was always something else I wanted to say
Can I say something while you think of that?
as well. Go ahead.
See, this became a war. Esto llegó a ser una guerra because they kidnapped Dinah in the first place. And in Torah, a kidnapping is, the compensation
Death.
for kidnapping is the death penalty. La compensación para robar a una persona es la pena de muerte. So because they stole Dinah, a person, por cuanto se robaron, secuestraron a Dinah, that allowed them in Torah to take vengeance through a war. Eso permitió que ellos tomaran venganza a través de guerra. Because literally the one that stole Dinah was the prince of this nation. So the nation declared war against Israel. Así que literalmente el que se robó a la muchacha fue el príncipe de la nación. Y por eso llegó a ser una guerra entre dos naciones.
Now we have another example of Yahuwah taking a man's wife,
Y tenemos otro ejemplo de un hombre que le quitó la esposa a un varón.
like the wives of the house of Hamor,
Como las esposas de la casa de
and giving
Hamor.
it to the righteous.
Y dándoselas a los sadikim.
What comes to mind is
Pero lo que viene a mi mente
the
es
house of Saul,
la casa de Shaul.
right?
¿Sí?
The Yahuwah said to
Yahuwah
David,
le dijo a David
in 2 Samuel,
en 2 de Samuel,
I believe it's chapter 12.
creo que es capítulo 12.
He said, I gave to
Yo
you
te di
the wives of your
a
master,
las esposas de tu amo,
Saul.
Shaul.
And if you had wanted more,
Y si hubieras querido más,
I would have given you
yo te
more.
hubiera dado más.
Why did you have to take the wife
Porque tuviste que quitarle la esposa,
and steal the wife
robarte la
of
esposa
Uriah the
de
Hittite?
Uría,
Remember?
el
So
Eteo.
here we have Yahuwah himself
Así que aquí tenemos a Yahuwah mismo
saying, I gave to
diciendo,
you
yo te di
Saul's wife.
las esposas de Shaul.
See that you can say, okay, well, Saul was dead.
Podría uno decir, pues Shaul estaba muerto.
Whatever. You see the same principle.
Pero vemos el mismo principio.
Continue.
Continuando. So, they took their wives, they took captive and plundered even all that was in the Bait, or the palace. And Jacob said to Shimon and to Levi, here comes the daddy. Aquí viene papi hablándole a los hijos. You have troubled me to make me stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I being few in number. See, that's what he was worried about. De esto estaba él preocupado.
He's been worried about being
they were
wiped
so
out.
little. Estaba preocupado que todavía era pequeña la nación. And I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and kill me. And I shall be destroyed, I and also all of the house of Israel. And they did to Jacob, and they said to Jacob, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot?
So basically, the son stood up to Jacob.
Así que básicamente los hijos
That's it.
se levantaron en
And
contra de
basically we're
su
saying-
papá.
Basically, we're saying this is not a time to be timid.
Y básicamente le dijeron, este no es tiempo de ser
This is the
tímidos.
time to stand for Yahuwah
Este es tiempo de estar por
and
Yahuwah
to defend
y defender
our kedusha,
nuestra apartación,
our set-apart living.
vivir en
And don't
apartación.
worry about
Y no se preocupe
who's going to accept you or try to kill
de
you.
quién le va a aceptar y quién le va a querer matar.
Because if Yahuwah is for us,
Porque si Yahuwah está con nosotros,
through the ages, it's the same
a
principle.
lo largo de las épocas es el mismo
Through
principio.
the ages,
A lo largo de las
if
épocas.
Yahuwah is for us,
Si Yahuwah está con nosotros,
who could be against us?
¿quién puede estar en contra de nosotros? Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
Baruch.
The end for now.
Hallelujah. So we're going to transit
Vamos a transitar
briefly
brevemente
into a short time
a un tiempo breve de
of what's called a edut
que se conoce como etut,
in Hebrew, or giving testimony,
o de dar testimonio,
or giving witness.
o dar testimonio,
And then we're going to pay our maaser.
y luego vamos a pagar nuestro maser.
It's so important
Es tan
for
importante
everyone who's born again
para todos los que han nacido de nuevo
and who knows the
y
Torah
que conocen
to
Torah,
have this copy
que tengan esta
that
copia
I'm going to, or a copy of the
o
RSTNA
una copia de las escrituras de restauración
that I'm going to do something
que voy a hacer yo algo
that I've never done
que
before.
no he hecho anteriormente.
I'm going to do
Voy
something
a hacer algo
that I've never done
que
before.
no he hecho antes.
Work with me
Trabajen
because
conmigo,
I know how this is going to change your life.
porque sé que esto va a cambiar sus vidas.
Okay. Red letters for Yahuwah's words
Letras rojas en las palabras de
in
Yahuwah,
Isaiah,
en Isaías,
in Ezekiel,
en Ezequiel,
not just the New
no
Testament.
solo el Nuevo Testamento.
Here's what I'm going to do.
Esto es lo que voy a hacer.
Instead of paying your tithe,
En lugar de pagar sus diezmos,
and we're not going to go to the tithe
y
right
no
now.
vamos a ir al diezmo en este momento.
Instead of going to the tithe,
En lugar de ir al diezmo, a los
I'm going
diezmos,
to ask everybody who's listening
voy a pedir que todos los que estén escuchando,
to purchase at least one
que
copy.
se compren por lo menos una copia,
So you will have this
para que ustedes la tengan
for generations.
para muchas generaciones. This is an
And
heirloom.
if you invest,
Y si ustedes
Yahuwah
invierten,
can use this
Yahuwah puede usar esto
to bring your husband,
para hacer que su marido,
your wife,
su esposa,
your children
sus hijos
back to Yahuwah
regresen a
and
Yahuwah
the blood of the Lamb.
y la sangre del
So
Cordero.
when we tithe,
Así que cuando diezmamos,
don't tithe.
no diezmen.
The price, the suggested donation
La donación
is
sugerida
$139.
es 139.
Purchase a copy
Cómprense una copia on Monday
and we'll send it to you.
y se las enviaremos.
Correct. But each copy is $139.
Pero cada copia vale
It will be the
139.
best decision you've ever made,
Será la mejor decisión que hayan hecho,
other than accepting Yahushua
además de aceptar a Yahusha
and getting married to a Kadosh spouse.
y casarse con un esposo kadosh.
So instead of tithing,
En lugar de diezmar,
purchase at least one.
cómprense por lo menos una.
If you could afford more,
Si pueden costear más,
you could distribute it.
pueden distribuirlas
And you will be well served
y serán servidos excelentemente
in your work for Yahuwah.
en su labor por
So when it's
Yahweh.
time to tithe,
Así que cuando sea tiempo de diezmar,
don't tithe.
no diezmen.
Just take the time to
Simplemente
purchase
tómense el tiempo para comprar
your own treasure,
su propio tesoro.
RSTNA.
Las escrituras de
Fair
restauración.
enough? I've never done that. I've been in
Eso nunca
ministry
lo he hecho.
for 37
He
years,
estado en el ministerio por
and
37
I've never
años
asked people
y
not to
nunca le he
tithe.
pedido a la gente que no diezmara.
That's how important
Así de importante
this work
es
is,
esta obra,
which is proof of the final
que
generation,
es prueba de la generación final,
because these manuscripts are restored
porque estos manuscritos han sido
from the Dead
restaurados
Sea Scroll
de los pergaminos del Mar Muerto
and from the Aramaic
y del arameo
and from restored
y de
manuscripts.
los manuscritos restaurados. Can I say something about
Just very quickly, because I don't want this to be an infomercial, but I just feel
Siento
that this is a vital tool
que esta es una herramienta vital
for all who are sincere.
para todos los que son
I don't want it to
sinceros.
turn into an
No quiero
infomercial,
que sea un infomercial,
but it's on our heart
pero está en nuestros corazones
to get this out.
por promover esto.
And it's not about
Y
sales,
no se trata de
because they're going to
ventas,
sell out.
porque se van a vender
I want to make
todas.
sure you have your
Yo
copy.
quiero que ustedes tengan sus copias. One thing about these books is that we publish them. Una cosa de estos libros es que nosotros los publicamos. So they are already rare in their
Availability.
uniqueness and their availability. Son raros en su disposición. So once this batch of 1,000 is sold, there's not going to be another batch like it. Una vez que este montón de 1,000 se vendan, no va a haber otro
Who
como
knows?
él.
Who knows?
Because the next batch is always different. Porque la próxima porción siempre
If
es
there is a
diferente.
next batch.
Si es que hay otra.
We don't know.
We don't know what things are going to happen.
If people
We already saw what's
don't, if
happening with
people don't
India.
support the project,
Si la gente no apoya este proyecto,
we don't have another 40,000.
no tenemos otros 40,000.
We don't.
No.
So it's an ongoing thing.
Wait, I'm not done. Otra cosa, no he acabado. And this is an heirloom. This literally becomes a family heirloom and a treasure, literally, not just physically and spiritually, not just spiritually. This is a physical treasure. Este es un tesoro físico. These books, because they're so unique and so rare in their production, por cuanto estos libros son tan raros en su producción, they become vintage right off the machine. Se convierten en reliquias yéndose de la máquina. And even though they're imperfect sometimes, y aunque sean imperfectos a veces,
Just like us.
they are still vintage and they're still highly valuable. So be careful who you give them to. Make certain the person will value them. Tengan cuidado a quién lo regalan. Confirmen que la persona los valore, because this is literally a family heirloom. Porque este es literalmente un tesoro familiar.
Speaking of family,
Hablando de familia,
so I'm going to try to make this so that the devil doesn't get any kavod.
Voy a intentar hacer esto para que el enemigo no reciba nada de estima.
But this is the part of our Shabbat service.
Pero esta es la porción de nuestro servicio de Shabbat.
Before we all make that effort during the tithing.
Antes de hacer el esfuerzo para
To
el
buy a
diezmo,
copy.
para comprarse una copia.
And if you could afford to buy 2 or 3, keep one and give the others to serious disciples.
Y si pueden costear comprarse 2 o 3 y concedérselo o hacer que aprendices serios la reciban.
I want to share
People
some.
you love and know that are serious students.
Yeah, don't just share it with anybody.
No con cualquier persona.
Only serious people.
If you give it to just anybody, it will end up at your local,
You're wasting your time.
local Goodwill store.
Only give it to
Si se lo
people.
dan a cualquiera, va a acabar en su tienda local de segunda mano.
Okay, so people who are serious.
Personas que son serias.
So we were coming up
Así que estábamos subiendo
Wednesday night
el miércoles por la tarde. That was
and Tuesday night,
El martes,
and it was evening, dark,
que era ya estaba oscuro
Lila,
en la Laila.
and we were ignorant,
Estábamos ignorantes, or we forgot.
basically being city folks,
Básicamente siendo personas de ciudad,
of how dangerous it is
de lo peligroso que es
to travel up a mountain
viajar en una montaña o en las montañas
where you don't know where you are
donde no sabes dónde estás
and you don't know where you're going.
ni a dónde vas,
Yeah, when it's pitch black,
cuando está súper oscuro.
and I do mean pitch black.
Y estoy hablando de súper oscuro.
So we were looking for our cabin.
Estábamos buscando nuestra cabaña.
Every 3-4 years, we take a little time off.
Cada 3 o 4 años nos tomamos un tiempo de descanso.
Usually during the counting of the Omer.
Usualmente durante la cuenta del Omer.
Number one, that's the time the first Moedim are behind
En
us.
primer lugar, este es cuando los Moedim ya de la primavera ya se completaron.
It's also the time of her
Es el
anniversary.
tiempo de su aniversario.
So we go to the Georgia mountains
Así que vamos a las montañas de Georgia
every 3 or 4 years.
cada 3 o 4 años.
We can't afford
No podemos costear
every year.
ir cada
I
año.
wish we could.
Nos gustaría poder hacerlo.
And plus, Rivka would kill us.
Además, Rivka nos mataría.
Plus, then I have to take Rivka as well,
Y luego tendría que llevar a Rivka,
which I probably will have to do,
lo cual sí voy a tener que hacer.
unless she wants to go somewhere else.
Solo que quiere ir a... She wants to go to the plains of New York.
Plains, Georgia, visit Jimmy Carter. So anyway, she wants to go to a peanut farm.
She wants to go to Washington, D.C.
That's right. So we don't get up here all the time.
No venimos aquí muchas veces.
And I was born and raised in Nueva York.
Y yo nací, estoy traduciendo para Shalom. Yo nací y crecí en Nueva York.
So I don't know much about mountains.
Así que no sé mucho de montañas.
But I sure learned a lesson
Pero sí aprendí una lección
on Tuesday night.
el martes por la
So
Laila.
we're looking for our cabin.
Estamos buscando nuestra cabaña.
And first of all, it's 20 miles outside of
Y
town.
en primer lugar está 20 millas lejos del pueblo.
Then once you find the right
Y
mountain,
una vez que encuentras la montaña correcta,
it's about 5 more miles.
está como a 5 millas
Right,
más,
roughly 5 miles
more or less,
up the mountain.
subiendo la montaña,
Not the bottom,
no abajo,
not the middle,
no en medio, pero en la cima,
5 miles up.
arriba.
Now to get to the 5 miles up,
Y para llegar a la cima de las 5 millas,
there seem to be at least
parecen haber por lo menos
30 turns,
30
right?
vueltas.
30, 40 turns every half mile, every quarter mile, back and forth up. Okay. So we finally get the GPS. We also learned another lesson.
Aprendimos otra lección.
GPS no trabajando.
GPS doesn't work
Or it does work,
well.
like the sons of Hamor. It works. It works to trick you.
Trabaja para hacerte
So
trucos.
when we
You
got
go
toward
round
the
and
top,
round
it
the
says,
mountain. There she
you have
comes.
arrived at your
They'll
cabin.
be riding down the mountain when they come.
You have
Yeehaw!
arrived at your cabin.
Ha llegado a su cabaña.
And we're like,
Like, where's the
then it says rerouting. So then it took us back
No sé, make a U-turn.
in the same roads where we were turning every 300-400 feet.
En los mismos caminos donde íbamos. Miu,
So
miu, miu.
rerouting, GPS rerouting, so 20 more turns.
Haciendo ruta nueva.
Pitch dark.
Oscurísimo.
We have nowhere we know where
No
we're going.
sabemos a dónde vamos.
Arriving at destination.
Llegando a la destinación.
We look out, there's nothing here.
No hay nada aquí.
There's nothing here. Rerouting, So we also learned that GPS doesn't work.
Aprendimos que el GPS no funciona,
Not this high up.
no así de alto.
Okay. So then we said, wait a second.
Y dijimos, espérate un segundo.
The GPS keeps saying it's here.
GPS sigue diciendo que está aquí,
Well, we know it's not
pero
here
sabemos que aquí no está,
to our right,
a nuestra derecha,
and it's not to our left.
y no está a la izquierda.
There's only one place it can be.
Solo hay un lugar donde puede estar,
Further up.
más arriba.
Then I come to two small metal signs, or
Luego llego a
2 or 3 metal signs.
dos señales, dos
Now we're
anuncios.
tired.
Estamos cansados.
We're tired.
Hay dos anuncios de metal.
It's
Estamos
9 o'clock,
cansados.
10
Es
o'clock,
Las 9 de la Laila,
11
10,
o'clock at night.
11.
We're tired.
Estamos cansadísimos.
We're short-tempered. We're short-patient.
Nos estamos enojando, impacientando.
We need a shower.
Necesitamos
We've
bañarnos.
been driving for 8 hours,
Manejando por 8
9 hours.
horas, 9 horas.
We're not happy.
No estamos contentos.
We're about to get less happy.
Estamos a punto de descontentarnos más.
Matter of fact,
Es más,
it's a miracle that we're here.
es un milagro que estamos aquí,
Here meaning alive.
hablando de estar vivos.
I almost died that night.
Casi me morí esa Laila.
I almost died that night.
Probably me too.
This was
Quizás
Tuesday.
yo también.
Let me explain.
Esto fue el martes.
So
Déjame
I saw
explicar.
these signs: private property, danger, no trespassing.
Vi estas señales. Propiedad privada, peligro, no entren.
Private property,
Propiedad privada,
danger,
peligro,
no trespassing.
no entren.
So I'm thinking, of course, there's no
Y
trespassing.
por supuesto, no podemos entrar.
This is a private cabin
Es una cabaña privada
in the mountains.
en las montañas.
Nobody's supposed to come on our cabin.
Nadie tiene que venir a nuestra cabaña.
Now, it's not to the right,
Pero no está a la derecha
it's not to the left.
y no está a la izquierda.
It's not back down the hill.
No está de regreso bajando la loma. la
Thank you,
montaña.
George. I appreciate that. David, thank you very much.
David.
We appreciate that.
Derrapa.
So it's not down the hill,
No está abajo de la montaña,
back the other way, because
retrocediendo,
we just did 4 or 5 trips.
porque acabamos de dar como 4 o 5 vueltas
And the GPS was wrong every time.
y GPS estaba equivocado todo ese tiempo.
So I drove further up.
Avancé más alto,
But then about 30 feet further up,
luego como 30 pies más arriba,
I said, wait a second.
dije, espérate un segundo,
There's a peak.
ahí hay una cima,
It looked like a triangle,
parecía un triángulo,
like a pyramid.
como una pirámide.
I said, that's the peak.
Esa es la cima.
So this one, the genius,
Así que la genio,
said that, well, the cabin must be over. I said, I'm not going
la
there.
cabaña tiene que estar allá
I'm not
arriba,
going there.
no voy a ir allá,
Because the car
porque el carro
is on a slope.
está en
We're on
una
a slope like
inclinación.
this, okay? What's the best? We're like
This is
this.
the mountain.
Yeah, this is the mountain, and this is the car.
Y aquí
right?
está el carro.
That's the car. This is the mountain.
This is the car.
She wanted me to go. Yeah, this is the car right here. So she wanted me to go up
Ella quería que subiera más alto.
to the peak, and I'm like,
A la cima.
right here.
Yo estoy aquí.
I said, I'm not moving.
No, no me voy a mover.
I have to back up.
Tengo que retroceder.
We need to get the hell out of here.
Tenemos que irnos de aquí.
Because no way I'm going up.
Porque yo no voy a
Yes,
subir
you
más.
heard me right. I used the H word. We got to get the H out of here.
Tenemos que irnos de aquí.
So I said, we got to back up.
Tenemos que retroceder.
And this genius
Y ella,
says, no, we got to go forward.
no,
I said,
tenemos que avanzar hacia adelante.
I had some choice words for her. Or not so choice words. And I said, now listen,
Escuche,
we are not going up.
no vamos a subir más.
Because if we go up,
Porque si
we're not going to be
subimos,
able to come back.
no vamos a regresar. No vamos a poder
Now,
bajar.
in addition to all that,
Y además de todo eso,
we didn't have 4-wheel drive.
no teníamos el carro adecuado para
We-
escalar montañas.
We didn't have a truck.
No teníamos una camioneta.
So we said, okay, we'll go backward.
Así que dijimos, vamos a ir hacia atrás,
But here's the problem.
con el carro
The
yendo hacia
road is
atrás.
15 feet wide.
Pero el camino está a 15 pies de angosto.
We're 5 miles up on a mountain.
Estamos 5 millas arriba
It's
en una
pitch
montaña.
dark.
Está oscurísimo.
There's no house.
No hay
There's
casa.
no cabin.
No hay cabaña.
Nada.
Nada. Y hay un voladero.
So
There's a cliff
no. We're on a road that's about 15.
on that side.
Is 15 accurate? Is 12, 15?
More or less.
More like, it could have been 12 feet wide,
Quizás en 12 pies.
It
No,
could-
it was 15.
15 feet wide, but it was narrow.
Estaba angosto el camino.
On each-
It was not straight and narrow.
On each side of the car, we had what?
En cada lado del carro, maybe 3-4 feet.
2 feet to spare?
3, 4 feet.
on each side of the car?
A cada lado del carro.
Okay, so
3 o 4
it's
pies.
pitch dark,
Está oscurísimo.
and I said, I'm not going backwards.
Dije, no voy a
And I'm also not going forward.
No voy a avanzar y no puedo retroceder.
Because if I go backwards,
Porque si retrocedo,
the wheels are spinning.
las ruedas están dando vueltas.
The ground is soft,
El suelo
moist.
está suave.
It probably rained.
La tierra está suave. Quizás había llovido. It had rained.
We didn't have four-wheel drive.
No teníamos
We were not in a
la
truck.
camioneta adecuada. No estábamos en una camioneta.
And when I tried to back up,
Y cuando intenté retroceder,
the wheels would spin,
las llantas daban vueltas.
and the left side would spin out,
Y a
try
la
to spin out,
izquierda se querían voltear hacia.
and the right side would sometimes spin that way,
Se iban de lado.
meaning it was trying to pull the car
Querían jalar el carro.
to the right
A la izquierda.
and sometimes to the left.
Y a veces a la izquierda o a la derecha.
Now, on one side of that 15-foot road,
De un lado de ese camino de
Was a
15
cliff.
pies había un voladero.
now keep in mind it's pitch dark,
Estaba oscurísimo.
we're 5 miles up.
Estamos 5 millas hacia arriba. En
If
la
I make
montaña.
one mistake,
Si cometo un error,
backing up
retrocediendo,
with the wheels spinning
con las llantas dando vuelta,
due to lack of traction,
debido a que no teníamos tracción,
I go over the cliff.
me caigo de
If I go over the cliff,
por el voladero.
I'm a dead man.
Y si caigo, estoy muerto.
That was an extremely steep cliff.
Estaba muy alto,
There was no boundary or nothing to catch.
no había que impidiera el carro de caerse.
And so I'm about a foot
Estoy a un pie
because it started slipping.
porque comenzaba a
I'm
resbalar.
about a foot and a half,
un pie y medio,
my wheel
mi rueda
from the cliff
del voladero
as I'm backing up.
al
That's
retroceder
on this side.
de este lado.
Here's the cliff.
Aquí está el voladero. De
On
este
this
lado.
side, there's a ditch.
De este lado hay un hueco como una zanja
This ditch is wet.
y esa zanja está mojada.
And once or twice the wheels got in and I had a hard time getting
Una o dos
out.
veces se me metieron ahí las llantas y
So
no podía salirme.
Watch this.
Vean esto.
If I put my foot on the gas too hard
Si ponía el pie en el gas demasiado acelerador,
to
demasiado
get out of
fuerte,
this ditch,
para irme de la zanja,
we're talking about a 15-foot road.
estamos hablando de un camino de 15 pies de amplio.
How wide is a car? 10
Maybe
feet, 12 feet,
12,
14 feet? One
No,
foot,
like, let's say
1 foot,
6 feet. maybe.
okay, 1 foot on this side,
Un pie de este lado,
I'm in a ditch.
estoy en la zanja,
We're stuck
atorados.
with
To the side of the mountain.
no cell
On the
service,
wall of the mountain.
no cell service
Maybe a
necessarily.
tree,
We don't know,
quizás pegándole a un árbol.
and we
a la
don't know
montaña.
if the phone works.
No saben si el teléfono
We
funciona.
don't know if we call 911.
We didn't know how to tell 911 to get there.
We didn't know anything. We didn't know if the cell phone even worked.
The cell phone was working, but
We found
didn't
out.
know where we were.
We found out that it was working.
Descubrimos que estaba
We
funcionando.
didn't know. We found out because the GPS wasn't working.
GPS no estaba funcionando.
Okay, so I had a choice.
Tenía yo la opción.
I could stay away from the cliff,
Podría estar lejos del voladero,
where I would definitely be killed,
donde definitivamente moriría,
or get stuck in a ditch
o atorarme en la zanja.
and wait all night for help to
Y
come.
esperar toda la laila para que viniera la ayuda.
We didn't, if help would come.
Si llegaba la ayuda.
So we panicked.
Así que nos dio un poquito de miedo,
So I said
o
to,
bastante miedo.
the first thing I did is I called 911.
Lo primero que hice, llamé a 911.
I couldn't go up
No podía ascender
because that was the peak
porque esa era la cima,
with danger signs.
con señales de
If
peligro.
the car slipped 1 foot
Si se me resbalaba el carro por un solo pie,
going downhill
descendiendo
to the left,
a la izquierda,
we'd both be dead.
los dos estaríamos muertos.
So I drove here in the
Así que
ditch.
manejé más cerca a la zanja.
But if I put 2 wheels in the
Pero
ditch,
si ponía las dos llantas en la
we
zanja,
probably couldn't get out.
quizás me iba a atorar y no íbamos a poder escapar.
So first thing we did is call 911.
Así que lo primero que hicimos era llamar a
She said, I'm
911.
sorry, we can't help you because
Dijo, perdone, pero no le puedo ayudar.
all our officers are busy.
Todos nuestros oficiales están ocupados.
Yeah, they're probably pulling blacks and Hispanics out of cars for not having a license tag and shooting them with a gun for not having a updated license. Of course, all the cops are busy.
Por supuesto que todos los policías están ocupados, quizás disparando a personas de color negro o café.
No police were available.
No estaban disponibles los policías.
But I can send you a tow truck.
Pero le puedo enviar una camioneta, una grúa.
So we're nervous, we're shaking. We're
Estamos
like, what do we do? What do we do?
nerviosos. ¿Qué hacemos? ¿Qué hacemos?
And we're like, I said, do you know how dangerous this is? She
¿Sabe
goes,
usted lo
yes.
peligroso que es esto? Sí.
And she's trying to tell me what to do.
Ella intenta decirme qué hacer.
And I'm trying to tell her what to do.
Y yo estoy intentando decirle a ella qué
And we're
hacer.
shouting at each other.
Y nos estamos gritando.
And no one's listening to the other
Y nadie
person.
está escuchando a la otra persona.
Because we're both panicking.
Porque los dos estamos con miedo.
Right?
Somewhat.
No, someone. So,
Yes.
okay. So, he said, sir, do you want a tow truck? We have to go.
¿Quiere usted una camioneta de remolque? Porque tengo que irme. Tengo que atender mi
How's
teléfono.
the tow truck going to get up here?
¿Cómo se va a subir la troca de
If there's
remolque?
barely room for us,
Si apenas hay espacio para
how's the
nosotros.
tow truck going to fit on this road?
¿Cómo va a venir la grúa aquí en este camino?
And how's it going to give us a tow
¿Y cómo nos va a sacar?
when the truck can fall off the cliff?
Cuando ellos se pueden caer
There's
del
no room for
voladero.
the truck to operate.
No hay espacio para que ellos puedan funcionar.
So I said, I'll call you back.
Les dije, le llamo de nuevo.
So I said to the 911 operator, can you stay on?
Le dije, ¿puede usted quedarse conmigo?
Because I'm gonna have her get out of the car,
Voy a hacer que ella salga del
and I'm gonna try
carro.
to back this thing back
Voy a
down.
intentar retroceder el carro
Can you?
hacia
She
abajo.
said, no, I got to go to other calls.
Dijo,
I'm
no,
sorry.
tengo que atender mis teléfonos.
She basically did not consider it an emergency.
Básicamente no era una emergencia
Yeah, right.
for her.
So I want to make this clear.
Así que quiero hacer esto claro.
We both knew
Los dos sabíamos
that we were getting out of there
que íbamos a
in
irnos
the
de
pitch
ahí,
dark on a mountain
en la oscuridad, en la montaña.
was no guarantee.
No había garantías de
There was
escapar de ahí.
a good possibility
Había gran posibilidad
that we would have to wait until
que
morning,
tendríamos que esperar hasta la mañana,
no food, no
sin
water,
comida, sin
on a
agua,
mountain,
en una montaña,
with a car at a, what is
con
that,
un carro, on
90
an
degree,
incline.
90-degree angle or something like that. I don't know exactly.
It was high.
Ugh, crazy. Or we can try to get out.
O podríamos intentar irnos, sacarnos de ahí.
So I said to her,
Así que le dije a ella,
why don't you get out of the car
porque usted no se baja del carro
and guide me?
y me guía.
I won't move.
No me
I
moveré.
won't use the reverse.
No usaré
I'll put it in neutral,
la pondré en neutral,
but guide me.
pero guíeme.
So inch by inch,
Así que pulgada por
we
pulgada.
went backward.
Retrocedimos.
She was standing basically almost in the ditch, right?
No, I was on the cliff, between the cliff and you. Making sure you didn't fall on the
She
cliff.
was, okay, but so she was standing at the edge of the cliff,
Ella estaba al lado del voladero.
and she could have fallen too. You
Yes,
could have tripped on something,
I could have.
and that would have been it.
Ah,
That would have been it. Finish. That would-
finito.
From that height,
Everybody's sister, bye-bye.
from that height, finish. And even if by some miracle we had survived,
Y si por algún milagro hubiéramos sobrevivido,
finding us at night would have been
encontrarnos en la Laila,
probably not till the next day.
quizás no hasta el próximo amanecer.
So yeah, she stood next to the cliff,
Ella estaba al lado del voladero, entre el carro y el voladero,
guiding the car
guiando el carro
toward the ditch
hacia la entrada de donde
to make sure
entramos,
that I didn't get
para
On the
para
edge.
confirmar que no se acercara demasiado al
on
voladero.
the edge of the cliff. So little by
And that you didn't hit
little,
a tree, y que no golpeara un árbol.
after about 20 minutes or so,
Como pasando 20 minutos más o menos,
we managed to find a driveway.
pudimos encontrar un espacio más amplio.
I don't know if it was a house or not.
It was a house,
A house
cabin.
further down the hill
Más abajo en la
where
ladera,
I was able to go
La
back,
montaña.
back into the
donde
driveway
pudimos voltear el carro
and make a U-turn and go down the hill.
y poder descender.
Go down the mountain. Thanks
Hallelujah.
to Mariamne
Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
getting out of the car.
Hallelujah.
Because honestly, if you were not there to direct
Si
me,
usted no estuviera ahí para dirigirme,
and it was not a straight cliff.
y no era un camino derecho,
In this part, there
Habían curvas.
might have been room, and then the next part of the cliff,
Yeah.
it narrowed even more. So the cliff was not even.
the road was not even.
The road was not even.
El camino no estaba parejo.
So Yahuwah
Habían porciones amplias y porciones más angostas.
was with us.
Yahuwah estaba con nosotros.
But I believe we were very close. It would have been me, not her.
No. If
No,
we were both in the car.
No,
it
but you
would have
weren't
been
in the
both of
car.
us.
Once I had you get out,
No, then you would have hit me with a car. Because I was there on the. you would have.
but once-
I would have gotten the worst.
well, once you got out of the car,
Yeah, it would have been bad.
if I had gone over the cliff,
Squish.
no, wait a second. If I had gone over the cliff,
Si me hubiera caído por el voladero.
I would not have survived.
No hubiera sobrevivido.
And
And I would have been mashed Mariami.
we discussed that. We discussed that. And you would have probably gone to the house, like the closest house, asking for help and calling
If
the
you would
cops.
not have hit me with a car.
But I'm convinced that that was the closest. That was the
Eso
closest
era lo más cerca.
that had come to death
Que he llegado a la muerte.
that I understand. Now, I'm sure there were
Well,
other.
you forgot the inner tube situation.
Yes, there were other times that angels, Yahweh protected me. But
Hubieron recently. in
that
the
I
past few
remember
years.
in the past
Few years.
few years,
2
decades.
years, maybe. No, not decades.
So we learned a very hard lesson.
Aprendimos una lección muy difícil.
Do not
No viajen
go up a mountain,
en montañas,
in the mountains,
en la laila,
at night,
en la noche.
unless you live there.
Solo que vivan ahí. Even if you live there, don't do it.
And well, then you know the road.
Because then, yeah, but you might forget.
You're not
or
going to
there
do
might be
something
another
stupid
car
like
coming.
you're not going to drive to the peak if you know where you live.
Yeah, it's better not to.
It's better, yeah. But I mean, if you live here, it's but
I bet
Please,
you people here
whatever you
know
do-
to do stuff in a day.
whatever, yeah, but it's a little bit different. So anyway, that's just part of the story. So we survived,
Sobrevivimos, we made it.
and
Hallelujah.
then I called the lady.
Le llamé a la mujer,
We were on the phone for
another lady.
an hour and a half.
Estábamos en el teléfono por,
The vacation lady,
yeah, the
and
agency.
we told her what happened.
Le llamamos a la agencia, le dijimos lo que
And
pasó.
she tried to talk us back to going to the cabin
Intentó convencernos a regresar a la
by
cabaña,
giving us help.
al
And I
ayudarnos.
said, no, I don't want help.
Y dije, no quiero ayuda,
I want a different cabin.
quiero otra cabaña.
This is 20 miles outside the
Esto
city.
está a 20 millas de la ciudad,
This is 5 miles up the mountain.
5 millas subiendo la montaña.
I'm not going through this
Yo
again.
no voy a pasar esto de nuevo, no lo voy a
She
repetir.
goes, well, I don't know if we have anything.
No sé si tenemos algo.
So they found another cabin.
Así que encontraron otra cabaña,
But
pero
now we're on the phone for an hour and a half.
estamos en el teléfono por hora y media.
So I found another cabin.
Encontré otra cabaña,
But you have to check out Saturday
pero
morning.
tiene que irse el Shabbat, el sábado por la mañana.
I said,
No service.
I can't check out Saturday
Yo
morning
no puedo irme el sábado por la mañana,
because then I have nowhere to go.
porque luego no tengo a dónde ir.
Then I got to check into a
Y
hotel
tengo que registrarme en un
and
hotel,
break Shabbat,
quebrantar el Shabbat,
buying and selling,
compra y venta,
which I don't want to do.
lo cual no quiero hacer.
And we can't be with you
Y
guys.
no podríamos hacer la transmisión.
So I said, just cancel.
Y dije, cancélelo,
She said,
totalmente.
cancel the whole thing?
Y él, cancélelo, lo canceló
I
todo.
said, yeah, cancel the whole
Dije,
thing.
sí, cancélelo todo.
Are you sure? I said, yeah.
¿Está usted cierto?
I'm not going back up that mountain.
No voy a subir esa montaña ya más.
There ain't no directions between heaven and hell that you can give me
No hay
to
instrucciones
convince
que
me
me
to go
pueda dar
back up that mountain.
para convencer a subir
I
esa
ain't going
montaña
back
otra vez.
up.
Y no voy a volver a ascender esa montaña.
And what you're offering me
Y lo que usted me
is
está
not
ofreciendo
good because
No me aprovecha.
Saturday's no good for us
Porque no podemos andar moviéndonos el Shabbat.
because of Shabbat. So I said, cancel the whole thing.
Cancélelo todo.
So now it's like midnight, 12:30.
Es a la media laila, 12 de la laila, 12 de la noche.
I found a local hotel,
Encontré un hotel.
a flea bag. But,
It wasn't a
a
bag.
couple of steps above a flea
A
bag.
flealess bag.
A bag with a few fleas, not too many, but it wasn't pretty.
Un hotel no tan bello.
And I woke the guy, he was an Indian guy,
Era un señor hindú.
and I woke him up.
Lo desperté.
And I said, do you have a room? Yeah,
Le dije,
yeah,
¿tiene
yeah.
usted un cuarto?
I said, okay, how much? He told me how
¿Cuánto?
much.
Le dijo, ¿cuánto?
Now, remember, we still don't have a cabin.
Acuérdense, todavía no tenemos
We
cabaña.
just have a hotel,
Solo un hotel.
a DP Vermont hotel.
Tipi Vermont.
A vermin. We used to call it a DP vermin. Run down. DP vermin. So
Un hotel no tan
I
precioso.
the Indian guy was nice, but I knew I was in a DP
El
vermin.
señor hindú era amable, pero sabíamos que estábamos en un hotel no
Because
tan
I said, do you want me to fill out
tanto.
a registration?
¿Quiere que llene una
Oh,
registración?
no. I said, okay, well, wait a second. Here's my license.
Aquí está mi licencia.
Wait a second.
Espérese un segundo.
No, I don't need your
No
license.
necesito su licencia.
So right away I knew
De inmediato yo sabía
what kind of place this
qué
was.
tipo de lugar es ese.
Because I've been on this earth for
Porque
63
he estado
years,
en esta tierra por 63 años.
and
Every hotel asks for ID.
at no point
En ningún momento
was I able to book a hotel
pude yo registrarme en un hotel
without ID
sin identificación
or filling out registration.
o rellenar registración.
He goes, just give me your Visa card.
Solo deme su tarjeta Visa. Show me the shekels.
Okay, so I gave him my Visa
Le di
card
mi tarjeta Visa
and I had a room.
y tuve un cuarto.
Think about that.
Mediten
No
eso.
registration,
Sin registración,
no
sin
identification.
identificación.
So next day I sat in the car.
Al próximo yo me senté en el carro.
I asked Yehovah to help.
Le pedí a Yahweh que me
I
ayudara.
let her sleep
La dejé dormir,
because she was tired.
que estaba cansada.
And I sat in the car
Y me senté en el carro.
Wednesday morning
Miércoles por la
and I
mañana.
asked Yehovah to fix this.
Y le pedí a Yahweh que me ayudara a arreglar,
So
que
now,
arreglara
a
esto.
long story short,
Cortando la historia,
we found a cabin
encontramos una cabaña
here in town,
aquí en el pueblo,
not 20 miles out of
cerca
town,
hacia el pueblo,
toward the bottom of the hill
hacia abajo de la montaña,
where we are now.
donde estamos hoy.
And the lady gave me the price,
La mujer me dio el precio,
which is more or less the price
lo que era más o menos el precio
of the first place
del lugar
where
original,
we almost died
donde casi morimos,
on that cliff,
en ese,
that narrow road.
en ese camino muy angosto.
And she said, if you stay, you're staying 5 nights.
Si se queda usted 5 noches,
She said,
5
well,
noches,
everybody who stays 5 nights
todos los que se quedan 5 noches
gets a 6th night
reciben una sexta noche
for free.
regalada.
Praise
Y
Yah.
dije, wow, aleluya.
A 6th night for free.
La sexta la regalada.
So we booked it,
Así que nos registramos ahí
and that's where we are
y es ahí donde estamos
right now.
en este momento.
So those of you who
And we get not only to do the Shabbat service, but now the Chodesh service.
praise Yah. So
Podemos hacer no solamente el servicio
those
de
of you who
Shabbat,
pray for us,
pero el servicio de Chodesh.
thank you.
Toda Rabá por
Even if you
sus
don't know what to pray for,
oraciones, aunque no sepan por qué orar,
just praying for our safety and
solo nuestra
our
protección,
preservation
nuestra preservación,
and our health.
nuestra sanación,
We're very grateful
damos toda Rabá,
because we knew Yehovah was with us that
porque
day.
sabíamos que Yahweh
I
estuvo con
don't
nosotros.
know if it was He Himself.
No sé si él mismo,
I don't know if it was angels.
ángeles,
I don't know if it was just Chokhmah,
Chokma,
because even Chokhmah
porque un Chokma
is a gift
es un regalo
from Yahuwah.
de Yahuwah.
Whatever means He chose,
De la manera que él haya escogido
we're here.
estar con nosotros, aquí estamos.
But we easily,
Pero fácilmente,
if the devil had full
si el
authority
diablo hubiera tenido máxima autoridad
and final word over our life,
y la palabra final sobre nuestra vida,
neither of us.
ninguno de
And I'm
nosotros,
speaking to the Ruedas
hablándole a los ruedas,
as well. Yahuwah was with us.
Yahweh estuvo con nosotros,
Because your daughter was in danger
porque su hija está en peligro
of death.
de muerte.
So calm down. She's here.
Cálmense,
She's
está
here.
aquí.
But that's how close it was.
Pero así de cercanos estamos. Tell them
That's how
also
close it was.
about the problem with the gasoline. Dígales del problema de
Oh.
gasolina.
That's right. You tell them, and then we'll go into our RSTNE.
Well, supposedly there's a
Tyler.
problem with the petroleum and a hacking issue.
The colonial pipeline.
The colonial pipeline. Yeah, so on our way here, which this trip had been planned for several months. Este viaje había sido planificado meses atrás. And what a coincidence that on the week that we decided to go on this trip, qué coincidencia que en la semana que decidimos venir este viaje, well, we also had other issues. Teníamos otras cosas, but the week that we decided to do this trip, la semana que decidimos hacer este viaje, is the week that the colonial pipeline gets hacked. Es la semana que hackean la pipa colonial, and there's a shortage of gasoline, petroleum, y hay falta de gasolina, and we're on the road again. Y estamos en el camino traveling, and then when we need to fill the gas tank,
On the way up,
there's like gas stations literally with no gasoline.
that same night
Este mismo yom,
when our life was in danger,
cuando nuestra vida está en peligro.
The same night.
In the daytime.
coming up here,
Subiendo aquí, había falta de gasolina. Like we literally went to 3 gas stations. Literalmente fuimos a 3 gasolinerías, and they didn't have any gasoline. Like there were lines and lines of cars looking for gasoline. Habían líneas y líneas de carros buscando gasolina. And we prayed, oramos, and the next one we stopped at, there was gasoline so we could continue on the way. La próxima en la que paramos había gasolina y pudimos continuar el viaje. But The enemy doesn't play nice.
but honestly,
El enemigo
if I
no
had-
juega justo.
If I had a choice between not being able to get gas
Pero si tuviera yo la opción de entre no tener gasolina
and checking into a hotel
y poder registrarme en un
and
hotel
go through what we went
y
through,
pasar lo que pasamos,
I would have chosen
yo hubiera escogido
to run out of gas.
que se me
I
acabara la
I
gasolina.
wouldn't wish that mountain
Yo no
experience
hubiera querido esa experiencia de la montaña
on my worst enemy.
en mis peores enemigos. Naran Shechem, Naran Hamor.
All right, friends. So Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
We're gonna take a short break.
Vamos a tomarnos un breve
So
reposo.
please, during the tithe,
Durante el tiempo de diezmo,
do what I said
hagan lo que les dije
and just mark it
y lo
for
marquen eso
RSTNE,
para las escrituras de
and
restauración.
we will be very grateful
Y estaremos dando muchas gracias
for what you do.
por lo que hacen.
We don't have the ability here
No tenemos aquí la habilidad
to do typing,
de poder
but I
teclarles,
think you know where to go.
pero creo que saben. Yohanan can type it for us.
Maybe, brother.
Yohanan, can you type it for us? Or Rivka?
Yeah, the donation link.
El enlace de donaciones.
The donation link.
El enlace de donaciones.
And if you could, when you find it, it's on the Yadi website.
Está en la página de Yati.
If you can post that,
Si pueden, por favor, compartir esos enlaces, Yohanan and or Rivka.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Eso nos ayudaría bastante.
Because from where we are, I don't believe we can do
Porque
it
no podemos teclar aquí con esta maquinita.
that easily.
No lo podemos hacer tan fácilmente. Yeah, let them do it. Don't do
So
it. Yohanan,
yeah, I'm
you
going to
can do
ask
it, please.
Rivka or Yohanan to if you go on the Yadi website, look for the link that says
Please share
donations,
the,
and please share the donation link.
compartan.
I knew it was true. I need to hear your voice and be true. Don't let me fall away, just like the grass withers away, and like the flower I will fade. Don't let me fall away. Our Father, save me from my enemies. God, my Father, wickedness is all around me. Open up my lips so I can speak. Help me to stand, for I am weak. Don't let me fall away, just like the grass withers away, and like the flower I will fade. Don't let me fall away. Don't hide your face from me when I am in distress. Oh, turn your ear to me when I cry. Answer me quickly. Hey, don't let me fall away. Don't let me fall away. Don't let me fall away. But Father, I cried and you delivered me. God, my Father, you opened up my eyes to see. I will lift my voice and praise your name. I will shout for joy till the heavens ring. Don't let me fall away, just like the grass withers away, and like a flower I will fade. Don't let me fall away. Don't hide your face from me when I
ocean roars to the Lord of hosts. Praise Adonai from the rising of the sun till the end of every day. Praise Adonai. All the nations of the earth, all the angels and the saints sing praise. Who is like him, Lion and the Lamb, seated on the throne? Mountains bow down, every ocean roars to the Lord of hosts. Come praise him, praise Adonai. From the rising of the sun till the end of every day, praise Adonai. All the nations of the earth, all the angels and the saints sing praise.
All right, friends. Praise Yah. I know we're some folks because of the connection. But like I said, we're in the mountains, so by and large, you're fine. We are back. Thank you so much
תודה רבה.
for posting that donation link, and also for everyone who is, rather than tithing, simply donating $139 plus some shipping as well to get your restoration scriptures into your hands to change lives. We're going to go, what we're going to do, we're enjoying our time with you so much. We didn't plan on staying on the air this long, but we are enjoying our time with you so much. And it feels like we already had one teaching, being in the Word, in today's Torah Parsha. It already feels like it probably is, we can consider as if we've already had one teaching, but we want to begin something which kind of coincides with a lot of the things that we spoke about.
Queremos iniciar algo que coincide con algunas de las cosas de las que hablamos.
And whatever we feel like we need to share that we don't get to
Y lo que
today,
sentamos a compartir que no podamos compartir hoy,
pardon me, we'll get to it, yeah, willing, tomorrow on new month number 3.
hablaremos de él mañana en el Jodesh número 3.
Which means that 2 weeks from tomorrow is Shavuot.
Y quiere decir que 2 semanas a partir de mañana es Shabbat
Or Pentecost.
o Pentecostés.
Go with me to Matthew chapter 23.
Vayan conmigo a Mateo 23. Mateo
Chapter 23.
23.
And I did give this message a title, but
Y sí le di un título a este mensaje.
all the times we've had to restart.
De todos los tiempos que hemos tenido que
Don't know if the
reiniciar.
title is still there.
No sé si el título está ahí todavía.
But basically, removing the occupants.
Pero básicamente quitando a los ocupantes.
Let's call it removing the occupants.
Quitando a los ocupantes.
Now, I believe what I'm going to share today
Yo creo que voy a compartir hoy
in Matthew chapter
en
23
Mateo 23
is going to be rich
a ser rico
because of the correct
a
understanding
causa del entendimiento correcto
that you're going to have,
que van a tener
and that is recorded
y que está grabado
in the Restoration
en las
Scriptures,
escrituras de restauración,
True Name Edition.
edición del nombre verdadero.
And this is the way it actually reads
Y esta es la manera que en realidad lo vemos
in the Hebrew,
en el hebreo.
and it's supposed to read this
Que
way
está supuesto a leerse así
in the Greek.
en el griego.
Okay, because if it meant anything else,
Porque si significara otra cosa más,
it would make what Yahushua is saying
haría lo que está diciendo Yahusha,
a huge contradiction.
una contradicción
So
grandísima.
let's go to Matthew 23,
Así que vamos a Mateo 23.
and we'll call this part 1.
Y esto lo vamos a llamar la primera
And
parte.
whatever we don't get to by 3 o'clock
Y lo que
today,
no acabemos para las 3 de la tarde hoy,
we'll try to get to tomorrow.
intentaremos continuar mañana.
Part 1,
Primera parte,
removing the occupants.
quitando a los ocupantes.
Removing the occupants.
Quitando, moviendo, ubicando a los ocupantes.
Thus spoke Yahusha to the multitude,
Y así le habló Yahusha a la multitud.
and Yahusha spoke to his Talmidim.
Y Yahusha habló a sus talmidim.
So what we're about to encounter here,
Así que lo que estamos a punto de ver aquí,
and we see all the red letters
y vemos todas las letras rojas,
and the RST&E,
las escrituras de restauración,
is not just for the
no
Talmidim,
es solo para los talmidim,
but to the multitude.
pero para la multitud.
So he's warning the
Así que
multitude
está advirtiendo a la multitud
and the potential Talmidim
y a los talmidim potenciales
in the
en la
multitude
multitud
that they're going to have to choose
que van a tener que escoger
between his headship,
entre su autoridad,
between his authority,
entre su cabeza
and the authority of the Prushim.
y entre él y la autoridad de los fariseos, Prushim.
Think of it as one conglomerate.
Mediten en ello como un conglomerado.
The Prushim,
Los fariseos,
the Sofrim,
los sofrim, escribas,
and the
y
Saddukim
los sadukim, saduceos,
were a conglomerate, with some exception,
con algunas excepciones,
were a conglomerate
eran una conglomeración
of haters
de personas que odiaban a Yahusha
and opposition.
y que lo oponían,
Haters
que lo odiaban
and
y
opposition.
lo oponían.
And Matthew 23's misinterpretation
Y la mala interpretación de Mateo 23
has sent many Talmidim
ha enviado a muchos talmidim
into Jewish error.
al error judío.
So they left the church system
Así que abandonaron el sistema dominical
to escape error
para escapar error
and wound up exchanging Christian
y
error
acabaron intercambiando su error cristiano
for rabbinic error.
por el error rabinical.
A true follower of Yahusha
Un real seguidor de Yahusha
must guard himself
tiene que protegerse a sí mismo
from both
de
church
ambos,
error
el error de la iglesia
or the leaven
o la levadura
of the house of Joseph
de la casa de José
and not trade it
y
in
no intercambiarla
their exodus
en su éxodo
from the church system
del sistema
for the
dominical
leaven of the
por
Pharisees.
la levadura de los fariseos.
Yahusha even went out of his way to warn us,
Yahusha aún nos advirtió,
and he said, beware
Dijo,
of the leaven
cuidado
of the
con la
Pharisees.
levadura de los fariseos.
The reason he said beware,
Y la razón por la que lo dijo
because it's something to flee.
es algo que huir,
It's something to be aware of
algo de que estar
so we
apercibido
don't fall into the pit
para no caer en la zanja
of the blind.
de los ciegos.
For if the blind lead the
Que si
blind,
los ciegos guían a los ciegos,
they both fall into a
los dos
ditch.
se caen en la zanja.
Right? So I see many believers follow the admonition of Chazon 18:4.
Así que veo muchos creyentes seguir la amonestación de Revelación 18:4.
Come out of her, my people,
Vete de entre ella a pueblo mío
and partake not in her
y no
sins.
participes de sus pecados
And they escape the error of the church
y
system,
escapan del error dominical
and they wind up in Jewish error.
y acaban en el error judío.
In order to be a Talmid
Para poder ser un aprendiz de
and
Talmud
not part of the
y
multitudes,
no parte de las
which
multitudes,
is why Yahushua spoke to both the multitudes
razón por la cual Yahusha habló a ambos, las
or
multitudes
the would-be disciples,
o a los aprendices que serían potenciales,
as well as to us, his true
al
Talmidim,
igual de nosotros sus reales talmidim,
not to fall into the illegal occupation
de no caer en la ocupación ilegal
that began to take place
que comenzó a tomar lugar
in the latter days of the Hashmonaim,
en los tiempos postreros de los Hashmonaim,
the dynasty
la dinastía
of the
de
Hasmoneans.
los Asmoneos.
So the Hashmonaim, the Hasmoneans,
Así que los Asmoneos,
in 150 BC, were
150,
righteous leaders.
160 antes de la época común, eran líderes tzadikim justos.
And we have that account in 1st and 2nd Maccabees,
Tenemos ese recuento en primera y segunda de
which
Macabeos,
we have right here
que tenemos aquí
in the Restoration
en las
Scriptures.
escrituras de restauración.
1st and 2nd Maccabees.
Primera y segunda de Macabeos.
But then, after the death of Yehuda and Jonathan and Shimeon and the righteous Hashmonaim,
Pero después de la muerte de Jonatán, Yahuda, Shimeón, los Hashmonaim,
The-
Tzadikim,
they began to sell their priesthood
comenzaron a vender su ministerio
to the highest bidder.
al que mayor dinero
And
tuviera para comprar
They
la
assimilated.
posición.
They assimilated with the
Y
Romans,
se asimilaron con los romanos.
and they became a
Y
cooperation
se convirtieron en un cooperativo
between politics,
entre la política,
the Romans,
los romanos
and religion.
y la religión.
So 160 years later, by the time Yahushua shows up,
Así que 160 años después, cuando viene Yahusha, llega Yahusha,
after the account of Hanukkah,
después del recuento de Hanukkah,
the priesthood
el ministerio
no longer belongs to the sons of
ya
Zadok
no le pertenece a los hijos de Tzadok
or the Zadokites,
o a los reales saduceos,
but now is given over to bribes
pero se le ha entregado al soborno,
and people that purchase their office
personas que compran sus cargos,
with
sus
the
posiciones,
approval and
con
approbation
la aprobación
of Rome
de Roma
and these three groups:
y estos tres grupos,
Pharisees,
los fariseos,
Sadducees,
saduceos
and scribes.
y los escribas.
They all together agree to occupy,
Todos juntos acordaron ocupar
and in order to occupy, excommunicate
y al ocupar excomunicar
the house of Zadok.
a la casa de Tzadok, la real casa de
One
Tzadok.
of the outposts
Uno de las posiciones de observación
of the house of Zadok
de la casa de Tzadok
was in the Dead Sea.
era en el desierto del mar Muerto.
Those were a group of Zadokite priests.
Ese era un grupo de ministros de
Now,
Tzadok.
they were not the only Zadokites,
No eran los únicos,
but they were a large group
pero eran un grupo grande
who left the temple
que dejaron el
and
templo
refused to return to Jerusalem
y se rehusaron regresar a Jerusalén
and participate
para participar
in the temple
del templo
because they weren't welcome.
porque no eran recibidos.
Their positions
Sus posiciones
had been occupied
habían sido ocupadas
by these squatters.
por estos usurpadores.
So the priests were missing in action.
Así que los ministros no estaban presentes.
Now, what we're about to read are the restoration of great precious truths
Y lo que estamos a punto de leer es la restauración de realidades preciosas
from the word of Yahuwah
de la palabra de Yahuwah,
as found only
solamente encontradas
in the RST&E.
en las escrituras de
You can
restauración.
grab any Bible you want.
Puedes tomar la escritura que quieras.
Matter of fact, why don't you do it now?
Es más, si quieres, hazlo ya en este momento.
Take any translation,
Tómate cualquier traducción,
and
toma cualquier
you
traducción.
and what it has actually
Y
accomplished
lo que realmente ha logrado
is make Yahusha to be a liar,
es hacer que Yahusha sea un mentiroso.
unless it's fixed,
Solo que sea fijo, arreglada.
unless the traditional understanding and translation
Solo que el entendimiento correcto y la traducción
is fixed,
haya sido arreglada,
then it makes him out to be a liar.
entonces lo hace que aparenta ser un mentiroso.
If you enjoy being lied to,
Si te gusta que te mientan,
that's your business.
eso es asunto
But
tuyo.
I don't believe you left the church system
Pero no creo que hayas abandonado el sistema
to
dominical
come into Nazarene Israel
para llegar al Israel nazareno
and continue to be lied to.
y que se te continúe mintiendo.
So now, maybe for the very first time in your life,
Así que ya, por quizás la primera vez en tu vida,
you're about to study
estás a punto de escudriñar
Matityahu
Mateo
23
23
to see what Yahusha is actually what he actually said when he walked the earth.
para ver lo que realmente dijo Yahusha cuando caminó aquí en la tierra.
Verse 2.
Verso 2.
First, he makes an unequivocal statement.
Primero hace una declaración sin igual.
The Prushim and Sofrim
Los fariseos y escribas
have sit themselves
se han sentado
in Moshe's kisei.
en el asiento de Moshe.
Notice the correct translation.
En la cátedra de Moshe se sientan los escribas y los fariseos.
Now, in every translation,
En toda traducción,
other than the beautiful restored RSTNE,
además de las preciosas y restauradas escrituras de
it
restauración,
has Yahusha sending his disciples
tiene a Yahushua enviando a sus aprendices,
to the rabbis
a los rabinos,
to receive their
a
leaven,
que reciban su levadura,
to receive their false doctrine,
su enseñanza falsa,
to receive their false teaching,
sus enseñanzas falsas
and to receive their false
y
understanding.
su entendimiento falso.
But then we have other places where he says, beware of the leaven of the
Pero luego
Pharisees.
hay otros lugares donde les dice, cuidado con la levadura de los fariseos.
Like in Matthew
Como en Mateo
15.
15,
He says, I believe,
creo que dice,
or elsewhere,
o en otro lugar,
he said, beware of the leaven of the
cuidado con la
Pharisees.
levadura de los fariseos.
So why would he turn around and send his Talmidim back to the Pharisees and to the Sadducees
¿Para qué?
for teaching and instruction?
Va a enviar a sus aprendices a que vayan a los fariseos, saduceos y escribas a que reciban instrucción de ellos.
So in every translation of Matthew 23:32,
Así que toda-
hold it. Matthew 23:2,
Así que en toda traducción de Mateo 23:2
it has Yahusha lying to his Talmidim.
tiene a Yahushua mintiéndole a sus aprendices.
Allegedly, he said this:
Alegadamente él dijo esto.
the Pharisees
Los fariseos
and the
y los
Sadducees
saduceos
rightfully sit and occupy
rectamente se sientan y ocupan
Moses' seat.
la cátedra o el asiento de Moshe.
That's a lie.
Eso es una mentira.
If Yahusha is the Messiah,
Si Yahushua es Mashiach,
he more than anybody
él más que todos
knew
sabía
that the Pharisees and the
que
Sadducees
los fariseos y saduceos
were not the legal occupants
no eran los
of the
ocupantes
teaching
legales
authority of Moses.
de la autoridad de enseñanza de Moshe,
That the kisei of Moses
que el asiento o cátedra de Moshe
only to be filled
solo tenía que ser llena
and
y
function
funcionar
through the sons of the house of Zadok.
a través de los hijos y descendientes de Tzadok.
And the Pharisees and Sadducees and all those guys were not
Y los fariseos, saduceos y todos esos no lo eran,
the offspring of the house of Zadok.
descendientes de los hijos de Tzadok.
So let's see what he really said.
Así que veamos lo que realmente él les declaró.
The Sofrim and the Perushim
Los fariseos, saduceos y fariseos, escribas y
have
saduceos.
seated themselves.
Los escribas y fariseos se han sentado a sí mismos. Se
Does
sientan.
one word make a difference?
Hace una palabra la
So
diferencia.
if I say to you,
Así que si yo le digo a usted,
Buddha
Buda,
sits
se sienta
as God's authority.
como autoridad de
So if I
Elohim.
say to you, Buddha sits as God's
Así
authority,
que si te digo que Buda se sienta como la autoridad de Elohim,
I'm saying one thing,
estoy diciendo una cosa,
correct?
¿sí?
But if I say,
Pero si digo,
no,
no,
Buddha
Buda
has seated
se ha
himself
sentado a sí mismo, se sentó
as God's authority.
como autoridad de Yahuwah.
Does that give a different meaning?
Da eso una significado diferente.
Let's try that again.
Intentémoslo de nuevo.
If Yahusha said this,
Si Yahushua dijo así,
Buddha
Buda
sits
se sienta
as the teaching authority in Moses'
como
seat,
la autoridad de enseñanza en el asiento de Moshe.
that would make him a liar.
Eso lo haría un mentiroso.
But if Yahusha said this,
Pero si Yahushua dijo así,
Buddha
Buda
took it upon himself,
se sentó o se impuso sentarse,
took it upon himself
se tomó autoridad para sentarse,
to put himself
para posicionarse
in Yahuwah's seat.
en el asiento de Yahuwah.
It would mean something entirely different.
Sería algo completamente diferente.
That's the correct meaning.
Ese es el significado correcto.
Everything in Matthew 23,
todo lo que está en el Mateo 23,
right on to the very end in verse 39,
hasta el final en el verso 39,
can only be understood and
solo se
comprehended
puede comprender, entender,
if you got verse 2
si
correct.
tienes el verso 2 correcto.
If you don't have verse 2
Si el
correct,
verso 2 está mal
you're
traducido,
going to wind up going to a rabbinical synagogue.
vas a acabar yéndote a una sinagoga
You're going to
rabinical,
wind up starting Shabbat on sundown.
iniciando el Shabbat en la puesta del
You're going to
sol,
wind up lighting candles every Friday night.
encendiendo velas cada laila, viernes en la
You're
laila,
going to wind
noche,
up studying the Talmud.
aprendiendo del Talmud,
You're going to wind up memorizing the Mishnah and the Gemara.
memorizándote Mishnah y Gemorá,
You're going to wind up memorizing and holding to the high level of Yahusha himself,
aprendiendo y memorizando, sosteniendo el alto nivel de Yahusha mismo,
the teachings of
las
Maimonides.
enseñanzas de Maimónides.
So with rabbinic Judaism comes a whole different Torah.
Así que con el judaísmo rabinical viene una Torah completamente
Because
diferente.
when Yahusha and you and his disciples say
Porque
Torah,
cuando Yahusha, tú y sus aprendices dicen Torah,
it's either the 5 books of
o
Moses
son los 5 libros de Moshe,
or the entire instruction.
o las instrucciones en su
It
totalidad.
has to be written.
Tiene que estar escrito,
Based on the book of Joshua,
basado en el libro de Josué.
it says,
Dice,
every word that Moses wrote,
toda palabra que escribió Moshe,
Joshua read.
Josué la leyó.
There was not a single word of anything that
No hubo-
Moshe taught
Ni una sola palabra de lo que enseñó Moshe,
that he wrote
que él había escrito,
that Joshua did not
que
read.
Yahusha no había leído.
That means
Eso quiere decir
that everything in the Torah is written.
que todo lo que está en Torah está
There
escrito.
was not one word
No hubo ni una sola
that Joshua
palabra
spoke
que habló Yahusha,
that Moshe did not first
que
write.
Moshe no escribió primero.
There's no such thing
Josué, no hay tal cosa
as a spoken
como una
or oral Torah.
Torah hablada oral.
So the occupants of Moses' teaching
Así que
authority
los ocupantes de la autoridad de enseñanza de Moshe
are unlawful themselves.
son ilegales ellos mismos.
How can they teach you Torah?
¿Cómo te pueden enseñar
They
Torah?
are unlawful.
Si ellos son ilegales,
They kidnapped,
ellos secuestraron,
took hostage
secuestraron
the authority of Moses,
la autoridad de Moshe,
which belongs only
que solo le
to the
pertenece
teaching priestly house of
a
Zadok,
la casa de ministerio y enseñanza de Tzadok.
and made themselves the leaders and the teachers and the
Se
Kohanim
hicieron ellos mismos los líderes, maestros y kohanim
of the people.
del pueblo.
That changes our entire understanding.
Eso cambia nuestro entendimiento en su
If
totalidad.
you understand what I'm
Si
sharing
tú
today,
comprendes lo que hoy te estoy compartiendo,
blessed are your eyes and your ears,
Baruch son tus oídos y tus ojos.
because 99% of the Hebraic Messianic movement
Porque 99% del movimiento mesiánico hebreo
does not understand what we understand.
no comprende lo que estamos entendiendo nosotros.
If he says
Si él
the
dice,
Pharisees and the
los
Sadducees
fariseos y saduceos
sit in Moses'
se
authority,
sientan en la autoridad de Moshe,
then we have to follow them,
entonces tenemos que seguirles,
even when they're wrong.
aunque estén
Even
equivocados,
the Talmud,
aún en el Talmud,
even the Kabbalah,
aún Kabbalah,
which they teach,
lo cual sí enseña,
even witchcraft,
aún la brujería,
and placing curses,
y poniendo maldiciones,
which they teach.
lo cual ellos enseñan.
Even stuff like it's okay to have sex
Aún cosas como es aprobado tener
with an
sexo
8-year-old.
con una niña de 8
The
años.
rabbis teach that.
Los rabinos
The
enseñan
rabbis
eso.
teach, well, if you steal from a
Los
Gentile,
rabinos enseñan que si le robas a un gentil,
it's not a sin.
no es un pecado.
Stealing from an Israelite
Robarle de un
is
israelita.
a sin.
Robar de un israelita es un pecado.
But if Yahusha is saying
Pero de un pagano o gentil no es un pecado.
they put themselves,
Ellos mismos se han puesto.
he's saying, I,
Dijo yo,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
did not put them there.
no los puse ahí.
So everything I'm about to warn you
Así que
about
todo de lo que les voy a advertir
is to remove the
es
occupation
para quitar la ocupación
that they have
que ellos tienen
on your mind,
sobre su
on your
mente,
heart,
sobre sus
on your
corazones,
teaching,
sobre sus enseñanzas
and the way you think.
y la manera en que ustedes piensan.
He's basically saying,
Básicamente está diciendo,
you either my Talmudim
o son mis talmidim
or you're theirs.
o son talmidim
You
de
can't
ellos.
claim to be my
No
Talmud
pueden decir ser mis talmidim,
or my Talmidah
mis talmidah,
and mix
y mezclar
leaven
levadura
with unleavened.
con lo que no es levadura.
My teaching
Mis enseñanzas
have no leaven.
no tienen levadura.
Their
Sus
teachings
enseñanzas
are a mix
son una mezcla
of truth and error
de la emet y del error,
because they are illegal
que
occupants
son ocupantes ilegales
of Moshe's kisei.
del asiento de Moshe.
Now watch this.
Y vean esto.
Now verse 3 is going to make
El
perfect
verso
sense.
3 va a ser súper entendible.
Everything else in this chapter
Todo lo demás que ven en este capítulo
is going to make perfect
va a ser
sense.
súper entendible,
Since they don't belong there.
ya que ellos no pertenecen ahí.
Not they belong there, therefore you must obey, even when it contradicts my words.
No está diciendo, ellos pertenecen ahí, ellos están ahí legalmente, aunque a veces contradicen mis palabras.
No, the premise is different.
La premisa es diferente.
The premise of Matthew 23,
La premisa
verse
de
2,
Mateo 23:2,
since they don't belong there,
ya que ellos no pertenecen ahí, ellos no deberían estar
I
ahí.
am your teacher.
Yo soy su
I
maestro,
am your rabbi.
yo soy su rabino,
I am your Messiah.
yo soy su Mashiach,
I am your
yo
instructor.
soy su maestro,
I am your redeemer.
yo soy su redentor.
This is a warning.
Esta es una advertencia.
He doesn't say, okay, follow the
Él nos
rabbis,
dice, ok, sigan a los rabinos,
even when they're wrong,
aunque estén
even when they
equivocados,
teach you I'm not the
aunque
Messiah,
les enseñen que no soy yo el Mashiach,
even when they teach you Gentiles can't be saved
aunque les digan que los gentiles no pueden ser
and have no
redimidos,
part in the world to
y que
come.
no pueden tener parte en el mundo que está por venir.
Follow them anyway.
Síganlos de todos modos.
Then if that's true,
Entonces, si eso es cierto,
if that understanding of verse 2 and 3 is
si
true,
ese entendimiento de versos 2 y 3 es cierto,
then why do the next 39 verses rebuke
entonces, ¿por qué es que los próximos 39 versos
the
reprenden
teaching and doctrine
la enseñanza,
and behavior
comportamiento
of the rabbi?
de los
So
rabinos?
if you don't leave the way you have been taught
Así que,
traditionally,
si no abandonas el camino que se te ha enseñado tradicionalmente,
then you have a schizophrenic chapter.
entonces tienes un capítulo esquizofrénico.
In the first two
En los
verses
primeros dos versos
of
de
Matthew
Mateo 23,
23, Yahusha allegedly says, oh,
Yahusha alegadamente dice, oh,
the scribes and the
los
Pharisees,
escribas y fariseos, hypocrites, oh,
they're not too bad.
no están tan
I
mal.
mean, after all,
Después de todo,
they have the authority
tienen la autoridad
in your life.
en sus vidas.
I'm just a peon.
Yo solo soy un peón.
I'm just the son of
Yo
Yah.
soy solamente el hijo de Yah.
I'm just the son of
Yo
Yah.
solo soy el hijo de Yah.
But they're the rabbis.
Pero ellos son los rabinos.
That's right, sister. They teach Noahide laws that are not
Enseñan
even in scripture.
leyes de Noah,
That's right.
Noah, que ni siquiera están en la escritura.
Okay? But don't worry about
Pero no
that.
se preocupen por eso.
Just admire them.
Simplemente admírenlos.
And then for the rest of the chapter,
Por el resto del capítulo,
he says they're children of hell.
dice que son hijos del infierno.
They're going to hell.
Se van a ir al infierno.
They're teaching you how to go to
Te están
hell.
enseñando a irte al infierno.
But don't
Pero
worry.
no te preocupes.
They're the leaders of the Jewish
Son los
people.
líderes del pueblo yahudí.
Don't mess with the leaders.
No maltrates, no vayan en contra de los
Don't
líderes.
mess with the leaders
No vayan en contra de
of
los
the
líderes
Jewish people.
del pueblo yahudí.
And then he goes on to condemn them
Y luego va continuando
in
condenándolos
39 fiery verses
en
of
39
condemnation.
versos fuertes y llamantes de condenación.
If you believe that, you're left with a schizophrenic chapter.
Si tú crees eso, te quedas con un capítulo esquizofrénico
Verses
que se
one-
contradice.
Verses 1 and 2 have to set the stage
El verso 1 y 2 tienen que preparar el escenario
for the next 37
para
verses.
los próximos 37 versos.
They can't be at odds with each
No
other.
pueden contradecirse.
It's like Yahushua saying,
Es como Yahusha diciendo,
the whores of Israel
las rameras de Israel
are in Moses' seat.
están en el asiento de Moshe.
You must obey them.
Tienen que obedecerlas.
You must listen to them.
Tienen que escucharlas.
And then spend the next 37 verses teaching how whoredom is forbidden by the Torah.
Y luego pasa los próximos 37 versos explicando cómo
Well-
la fornicación y prostitución es prohibida por Torah.
Well, if whoredom is forbidden by the Torah, why do you just tell us to accept what they're saying and what they're doing?
Pues si la prostitución es prohibida
That
en
makes no
Torah,
sense.
en Israel, ¿por qué en los primeros dos versos nos está diciendo que las prostitutas están a cargo de esto?
Pero
No es entendible.
if these invaders and occupiers put themselves there,
Pero si estos invasores y usurpadores se pusieron ellos mismos ahí,
that's why we're in the last day.
por eso estamos en los últimos tiempos.
That's why we have the restored
Por
scriptures.
eso tenemos las escrituras restauradas.
It's no longer an option.
Ya no es opción.
There are certain Bibles
Hay ciertas Biblias
that if you accept them,
que si las aceptas,
they will send you to hell.
te enviarán al infierno.
Why?
¿Por qué?
Because Paul told Timothy,
Porque Pablo le dijo a Timoteo, Pablo le dijo a Timoteo,
give heed to sound doctrine.
escucha enseñanza Tob,
Prepare your heart only
prepara tu corazón
for
solamente
sound doctrine.
para enseñanza Tob, sana.
And then he said this,
Y luego dijo así,
because if you accept only Torah-based,
porque si solo aceptas
sound doctrine,
enseñanza basada en Torah,
you will save yourself
te rescatarás a ti mismo
and those who hear you.
y a los que te escuchan.
Doctrine saved.
La enseñanza te
Again,
rescata,
Paul,
te redime.
Shaliach
te ayuda.
Shaul
El apóstol Shaul
told young Timotheus,
le dijo a Timoteo, el muchacho Timoteo,
guard your doctrine,
cuida tu enseñanza,
for in sound
porque en la
doctrine
enseñanza sana
you will save
te
yourself
rescatarás a ti mismo,
in addition
además
to the students
de a los aprendices,
who hear you.
quienes te escuchen.
So what Yahuwah showed me this morning,
Así que lo que Yahuwah me enseñó esta
it's not
mañana,
about selling Bibles.
no se trata de vender Biblias,
You know what it's about?
se trata de,
And I'm going to show you later.
les voy a enseñar de qué se trata después.
Actually, I'll do it now
Es más, lo haré en este momento,
before I lose my train of
antes de
thought.
que se me olvide.
Having this understanding
Tener este entendimiento.
right here.
Aquí, it's a kitty.
That's a cat.
Yeah.
Having something, this right here
Teniendo esto,
is part of the end times.
es parte de los tiempos finales.
You want me to show you that? I'm
¿Quieren que se
going
los
to jump a
enseñe?
little bit, now
Voy
I'll
a
come
brincar
back.
un poquito y luego regreso.
If you go to the end of this discourse
Si van al final de este discurso,
in Matthew
en
23,
Mateo 23,
verse 39,
verso 39,
38,
38,
your house, your bayit is left to you desolate.
su casa se queda desolada.
I'm in Matthew 23, 38.
Mateo 23, 38.
Your house, meaning the teaching, the doctrine, the
La
foundation
enseñanza, el fundamento, su
of
casa,
rabbinic Judaism.
les es dejada desierta del judaísmo
The
rabínico.
Pharisees, the scribes, and the
Los
Sadducees,
fariseos, escribas,
who
saduceos,
collectively have sat yourselves down,
que colectivamente están
occupying
sentado ellos mismos, ocupando
the seat of
el
Moses.
asiento de Moshe,
That house
Esa
that
casa.
many Messianic Jews follow,
que muchos judíos mesiánicos
the
siguen.
leaven of the
La
Pharisees.
levadura de los fariseos
He says, I will leave your house
dice, dejaré su casa
desolate.
desolada.
What does desolate
¿Qué
mean?
quiere decir desolada?
Destroyed.
Desierta,
If
destruida.
you don't leave the teachings of the rabbis,
Si no dejas las enseñanzas de los rabinos,
you already left the church.
ya dejaron la iglesia.
Why would you trade Christian error
¿Para qué?
for Jewish
Van a
error?
intercambiar el error cristiano por error
We
judío.
are to forsake the leaven
Tenemos que abandonar, dejar la levadura
of both
de
houses
ambas casas
of Israel
de Israel
in order to be the two sticks
para hacer los dos palos
of Ezekiel
de
37
Ezequiel 37,
that renounce
37 people,
that renounce paganism.
que se renuncian al paganismo.
That's right. So he's saying, in the end,
Está diciendo al
the
final,
ones who have illegally occupied Moses'
los
seat
que han ocupado el asiento de Moshe
are building a
ilegalmente
house
están construyendo una
that
casa
I will pull down.
que yo
The Lamb
derrumbaré.
of Yahuwah.
El
That
Cordero de
I, the
Yahuwah.
Lamb of
Que yo,
Yahuwah,
el
will
Cordero de
pull
Yahuwah,
down.
derrumbaré. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
Behold,
He aquí,
your house
su casa
is desolate.
está desierta.
In a movie,
En una
it adds a couple of words
película agrega un par de palabras
to this verse.
a este verso.
The home of the lizard
La casa de la lagartija
and the spider.
y la araña, or the night owl,
Behold, no, but in a movie.
en una película.
Behold, the house
He aquí la casa
of those who are
de
occupying
aquellos que están
by
ocupando
putting themselves in my authority or in my
ponerse
place.
sí mismos en mi autoridad, en mi lugar.
Do you understand what Yahusha is saying?
¿Entienden lo que está diciendo Yahusha?
It's not a matter of being more Jewish than the
No se
Jews.
trata de ser más judíos que los judíos.
If you're following their
Si
teaching,
están siguiendo sus enseñanzas,
you're putting them
están poniéndolos a ellos
in my place.
en mi asiento.
I'm supposed to have
Yo estoy supuesto a tener
the lordship,
la autoridad,
and the preeminence.
el señorío, la preeminencia.
I'm going to leave their
Porque
house
yo voy a dejar su casa
desolate.
desolada.
And verse 39.
Y el verso 39.
And this is where the restoration scriptures,
Y es aquí donde las escrituras de
you heard
restauración,
me right,
me escucharon
are
correctamente,
part of Yahuwah's plan
forman parte del plan de
to
Yahuwah
prepare us
para prepararnos
to leave the house
para abandonar la casa
that's coming down,
que está siendo
to
derrumbada,
escape the
para
fire
escapar el fuego
of that house
de esa casa
that is coming down.
que está siendo derrumbada.
Because two things are happening
Porque dos cosas están aconteciendo
in the end times.
en los tiempos
He's bringing
finales.
down the house of cards
Está derrumbando la casa de cartas
of those who began to
de
occupy
aquellos que comenzaron a
and
ocupar
refused to leave
y
and
se
end their
rehusan
occupation
dejar abandonando su
for
ocupación
2,000 years
por 2000 años,
or something else.
pero algo más.
And this is where Yahuwah is using
Y es aquí donde Yahweh está usando
the RST in it,
las escrituras de restauración
based on verse 39.
basado en el verso 39.
Watch this.
Vean esto,
For I say to you,
porque les digo,
meaning those who follow him,
hablándole a los que le
Us.
siguen, los que nos siguen,
I'm here as a baby in Bethlehem
estoy aquí como bebé en Betlehem
to atone for your sins.
para expiar por sus pecados,
But you will never see me again.
pero no me verán más hasta
All of you who hate me,
ustedes los que me odian,
all of you who don't listen,
los que no escuchan,
but you listen to the alleged seat of Moses,
escuchan, pero escuchan al alegado asiento de Moshe,
all those who are in the seat of
los que
Moses,
están en el asiento de Moshe,
who are building a house of
que
lies
están construyendo una casa de mentiras
that will become
que
desolate
será desolada, desierta,
before my coming.
antes de mi
So I'm
venida.
going to use things like this
Así que voy a usar cosas tales como estas
and other things
y otras
like this
como estas
to make the false doctrine,
para hacer que las enseñanzas
the
falsas,
leaven of the Pharisees
la levadura de los
and the
fariseos
scribes,
y los escribas
and the Sadducees,
y los saduceos
a house of
sea
desolation.
una casa de desierta.
Get out of their
Váyanse
teaching
de sus enseñanzas.
like Timothy. And in so doing, you will save yourself and those who hear you.
Como Timoteo, y en hacer eso se rescatarán a sí mismos y a los que les oyen.
Because none of those, you're not listening,
Porque nadie de
none of those
nadie de
who
ellos
claim the authority of Kiseh
que
Moshe
reclaman la autoridad del asiento de Moshe
are going to be redeemed.
van a ser redimidos.
None of you can see me again.
Nadie de ustedes me podrá ver de nuevo.
He's rebuking.
Está reprendiéndoles.
He's saying, you're going to receive my rebuke
Y se van a recibir mi
and come out
reprensión.
of the house of
Y
desolation.
váyanse de la casa de desierto, desolación.
But if you don't,
Pero si no lo hacen,
and you won't,
y no lo harán,
unless
solo que
you learn.
aprendan.
Notice that word learn
Vean ahí la palabra aprendan
in verse 39.
en el verso
Sí.
39.
All of you multitudes,
Ven, todas ustedes
I'm
multitudes.
talking to the multitudes,
Estoy hablándole a las multitudes,
and including my disciples.
incluyéndole a mis aprendices.
You've been learning
Han estado aprendiendo
from the illegal
de los
occupants
ocupantes ilegales
who stand against me
que se ponen en contra de mí
and against you.
y en contra de
You've been
ustedes.
learning from
Han estado
them
aprendiendo de ellos
for 2,000
por
years.
2000 años.
You've been learning from
Han
them.
estado aprendiendo de
Now,
ellos. Y hoy,
In the end time,
en los tiempos finales,
you will learn from me.
aprenderán de mí.
And if you learn from
Y si
me,
aprenden de mí,
you have to renounce
tienen que
them
renunciarlos a ellos
as your spiritual
como
authority.
su autoridad
If you're going to learn
espiritual.
from me,
Si van a aprender de mí,
you have to renounce
tienen
them
que renunciarlos a ellos
as your spiritual
como su
authority.
autoridad
The Jews
espiritual.
and the Christians,
Los judíos y cristianos,
both,
ambos.
only Yahushua
Solo Yahusha
is our teacher
es nuestro maestro
through the apostles.
a través de los apóstoles
prophets.
y profetas. Another thing.
No, hold it. Look at 39.
Veamos el verso
You,
39.
if you want to leave the occupied
Si
authority,
quieren dejar la
the
autoridad
illegal kidnapped authority
ilegal, secuestrada
of Kiseh Moshe,
del asiento de Moshe,
you will have to learn something else.
tendrán que aprender otra cosa.
I'll let you give your thought. Just hold it for a second.
Yeah.
You'll have to learn something else.
Tendrán que aprender otra cosa.
You're going to have to learn how to cry.
Van a tener que aprender a clamar
Cry in humility.
hasta que digan en humildad,
Cry in humility.
clamar en humildad.
that I was mixing
que yo estaba mezclando
Torah and rabbinics
Torah y lo rabinical
on the internet.
en el
I've been
internet.
listening to too many
He
teachers.
estado escuchando a demasiados maestros.
I've been listening to too many
He estado
instructors.
escuchando a demasiados instructores.
I want apostles,
Quiero apóstoles,
prophets,
profetas,
pastors,
pastores,
evangelists
evangelistas,
that are the
que
fingers
son los dedos
of the arm
del brazo
of Yahuwah.
de Yahuwah.
Only Yahusha.
Solo
is the
Yahusha
arm.
es el brazo.
No one who is religious
Nadie quien sea religioso,
that is not attached to the
que no
arm
esté conectado al
but
brazo,
hates the arm
pero que odia el
will I
brazo,
ever
puedo yo nunca
allow to feed me.
permitir que me dé de comer.
I'll let Moshe Kanachowski
Yo
feed me
permitiré que Moshe Konichowski me dé de comer.
because this apostle
Porque este apóstol
doesn't deny the
no
arm.
niega el brazo.
The arm
El brazo
is an extension of the
es
head,
una extensión de la
the
cabeza.
father.
El Abba.
The father
El Abba
extended through the arm,
extendido a través del
the
brazo.
right hand of Yahuwah,
La mano derecha de Yahuwah.
and Moshe,
Y Moshe.
and Rivka,
Y Rivka.
and John
Y
McKinney,
John McKinney.
and Chris
Y Chris
Bromfield,
Bromfield.
and Benjamin
Y
Dornan.
Benjamin Dornan.
They're not into rabbinics.
No están involucrados
They're
en lo
not into
radical.
L. Ron Hubbard,
No están involucrados
Dianetics,
con L. Ron Hubbard y Dianetics.
Messiah or Madman.
Mesías o loco.
B. Madman.
B. Loco.
L. Ron Hubbard. I've studied his teachings.
He escudriñado sus enseñanzas.
I've studied comparative religion so I can come back to
He
you
escudriñado
and prevent you
la
from
religión
falling into those blind man-made
En
ditches.
comparación para poder enseñarles a ustedes acerca de esas zanjas artificiales.
So if we recognize
Así que si reconocemos
that these pretenders
que estos impostores
have put themselves
se han puesto a sí mismos
in Moses' seat,
en el asiento de Moshe
and you let me teach
y
you,
permiten que yo les
I
enseñe,
said you shall learn
entonces aprenderán ustedes
from me
de mí, dice
how to
Yahusha,
cry
cómo clamar
in repentance,
en arrepentimiento.
but more than
Pero
that,
más que eso,
watch this,
vean esto,
and I will teach you
y yo les enseñaré
how to say
cómo
this,
decir esto,
how to talk like this,
cómo hablar así,
how to hope like
cómo
this,
esperar así,
how to trust like
cómo
this,
confiar así,
how to believe like
cómo
this.
creer así.
Baruch
Baruch,
haba
Haba,
b'shem
Beshem,
ha'adon
Adon,
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Blessed is the teacher
Baruch, bendito es el maestro aquel
who is anointed as Yahuwah's only begotten
que es
son,
ungido como el hijo unigénito de
who
Yahuwah,
comes in the name of Yahuwah.
que viene en el nombre de Yahuwah.
Because these occupants
Porque estos ocupantes
don't come in his
no
name.
vienen en su nombre.
Hashem, the
Hashim,
name,
el nombre.
bless the name,
Baruch sea el nombre.
pray in the name,
Oren en el
but won't
nombre.
teach it,
Pero no
won't
lo
sing in
enseñan,
it,
no lo entonan,
won't create lyrics
no
for it,
crean letras para ello,
won't make it preeminent
no lo hacen preeminente
in their discipleship.
en sus entrenamientos.
So if you come to me,
Así que si vienen a mí,
you're going to have to leave
tendrán que dejar
the throne of
el
Moses.
trono de
Because
Moshe,
for 2,000 years,
porque por 2000
the throne of
años
Moses
el trono de Moshe
has no authority
no tiene autoridad
over my disciples.
por encima de mis
So if you're
aprendices.
willing to leave that
Así que si
authority,
están dispuestos a abandonar esa autoridad,
I will teach
yo
you
les enseñaré
how to cry
cómo clamar
in humility.
en humildad.
And I will teach you the true name of Yahuwah. I will restore to you
Y cómo clamar en al nombre de Yahweh les
many,
restauraré
many great restoration truths.
muchas realidades grandes de
The
restauración.
first of which
Pero la primera de la cual
is the third
es
commandment.
el tercer mandamiento.
Blessed is the teacher
Baruch es el maestro
who sits in Yahuwah's throne
que se sienta en el trono de Yahuwah
and has come to restore the true
y ha
name
venido a restaurar el nombre real
of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh.
de Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh,
The restoration
las
scriptures.
escrituras de restauración.
This
Estas
is one of the tools
son una herramienta
that Yahuwah has been using
que Yahuwah ha estado
for
usando
16
por
years.
16 años.
This is the 7th edition.
Esta es la séptima edición.
For 16
Por
years,
16
he has
años,
been teaching
Él ha
us
estado enseñándonos
how to bless Yahuwah
cómo darle la braca a Yahuwah,
and obey Yahuwah
obedecer a Yahuwah,
and cry to Yahuwah.
clamar a Yahuwah.
And he says to those who, to this day,
Y dice a aquellos hasta
unlawfully
hoy,
sit in the seat of
los
Moses.
que ilegalmente están sentados en el asiento de
You who
Moshe.
claim to lead
Ustedes que
Israel
dicen liderar a
and
Israel
Messianic Jews,
y a los judíos mesiánicos,
you will not see me.
no me verán.
When I come back,
Cuando yo regrese,
every eye will see me,
todo ojo me verá,
including those who pierced me,
incluyendo los que me traspasaron,
except you,
excepto ustedes,
because you taught lies.
porque enseñaron mentiras
In the name
en el nombre
of
de
Jesus,
Jesús,
in the name of
en el
Yahusha,
nombre de Yahusha,
and in the name of Torah.
y en el nombre de Torah.
Moses' seat is Torah.
El asiento de Moshe es Torah.
You shall not see me again.
No me verán de nuevo.
Every eye shall see him,
Todo ojo lo verá,
even those who pierced him,
aun los que lo traspasaron,
except those,
excepto aquellos
watch, who sit in Moses'
quienes se
seat,
sientan en el asiento de Moshe,
and all those
y todos aquellos
who follow
quienes siguen
Moses' seat.
el asiento de
That's
Moshe.
why Paul the apostle,
Es por eso que Pablo el
one of the
apóstol,
main fingers
uno de los dedos
of the
principales
arm of Yahuwah,
del brazo de Yahuwah,
said,
dijo,
Timothy,
Timoteo,
don't be like them.
no seas como ellos,
Guard your doctrine,
cuida tu enseñanza,
because it will save yourself
porque te rescatará a ti
and those who hear
y a
you.
los que te escuchen.
And when it saves you
Y cuando te rescate
and those who you teach,
y a los que tú enseñas,
you will
tú
cry
clamarás
and bless
y darás braca
Yahuwah's name,
al nombre de
the true
Yahuwah,
name,
al nombre
the
real,
true name,
el nombre
the
real,
only true name,
el único
the
real,
one
nombre,
memorial true
el
name.
único nombre real.
And when you learn the true name
Y
and
cuando
you restore it
el nombre real y lo restaures,
as you follow me, when
Al
you restore it in your own lifestyle.
cuando lo restaures en tu propia manera de vivir.
Just the other day, we were witnessing to somebody
El
who
otro
saw
día
this. We went out to
estábamos
breakfast and they saw
Dándole testimonio a alguien que vio esto,
the name and we were able
vio
to
el nombre de
restore
Yahuwah,
things.
y pudimos iniciar
share
una
with
conversación compartiendo con él.
You will see me.
Me verán
In the restoration,
en la restauración,
away from the throne of Moses,
lejos del trono de Moshe,
seat of Moses.
el asiento de Moshe.
When I restore myself
Cuando yo me restaure a mí mismo
and my ministers
y a mis ministros
on that seat,
en ese asiento,
you'll see me.
me verán.
But until I
Pero hasta que yo
am restored,
sea
my
restaurado,
name is
mi
restored,
nombre sea restaurado,
my kadosh name of Abba
mi
Yahuwah is
nombre
restored.
Kadosh de Abba Yahuwah
None
sea
of you who
restaurado.
sit in Moses' seat
Nadie de
and
ustedes
none of their students
Sentados en el asiento de Moshe y nadie de sus aprendices
will see the second coming.
verá la segunda venida.
The second coming
La segunda venida
will be hidden
estará escondida
from their eyes.
de sus
You
ojos.
think knowing the true name is important?
¿Piensas que conocer el nombre real es
You think having
importante?
a scriptures
¿Piensas que tener las
with the
escrituras
true name in Paleo
con el
Hebrew
nombre real en el hebreo paleo
is
es
important,
importante
or is a money-making
o
scheme?
es una manera de
Hey
hacer
man, if I
dinero?
wanted to make money, I'd sell real estate
Si yo quisiera hacer dinero, yo vendería bienes y
because
raíces,
that's where the money is.
especially in the mountains.
It's not in selling
No es
Bibles,
en vender Biblias,
selling real estate.
es vender bienes y raíces.
So this ministry.
Así que este ministerio,
This has been out there for 16 years.
esto ha estado por 16 años al público, disponible al
But
público.
we raised the standard.
Pero hemos elevado la calidad.
We have the best
Tenemos la mejor
right now.
en este momento. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
Let's get back to this.
Regresemos a
And then we got
esto.
to finish.
Y luego tenemos que acabar.
What time is it?
3:04.
We're a little over time or 3:24?
3:04.
Okay. Give me a couple more minutes
Un par de minutos más.
and then I'll let her share whatever she wanted
Luego la
to.
dejo ella compartir lo que ella quería compartir.
So we haven't made it past verse 2.
Así que no hemos pasado. This is going to be a series.
And that's why we'll pick it up
39
tomorrow.
parts
Mhm.
or 20 parts
39 parts. One part for each verse.
for 2 verses.
Verse 3.
Verso 3.
So since they are, if you go forward from now on,
Si avanzan,
understanding that the rabbis should have no teaching
De hoy en
or
adelante,
ministerial access to
entendiendo.
your ears. Let me say that again. The rabbis who hate Yahusha should have no doctrine or access to your ears.
entendiendo esto, que no deberían de darle acceso de enseñanza a los rabinos quienes odian a Yahusha. No les permitan a los rabinos, al sistema rabinical, que tenga acceso a ustedes si ellos mismos odian a Yahusha. Oh, we're alive.
We're live.
You're alive.
That was a enseñado. Termino. Anyway, she's right. She's right.
Yes.
She's not harsh. She's a wonderful
Reminder.
wonderful pillar, and that was a total reminder. So since this is all true,
Esto todo es cierto.
watch this.
Vean esto.
Here's a comparison.
Esta es la comparación.
All that Moshe Rabbeinu
Todo lo que Moshe Rabino, nuestro
invites
maestro,
you
te invita
through his Torah
a través de su Torah
to observe.
a observar,
Observe what Moshe invites you to observe.
observando lo que Moshe les invita a observar.
So we have competing interests.
Así que tenemos intereses que están compitiendo.
We have the seat of Moshe
Tenemos el asiento de Moshe,
that's teaching basura,
que está enseñando basura,
mezclado,
trash,
mezclado,
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 mixed.
mezclado o clavo,
What are you trying to say?
mixed,
Mezclado
mezclado con verdad,
con la realidad. Ajá.
entre verdad, entre mentiras.
Yes.
Okay. Or we have what Moses
O
teaches,
tenemos lo que enseña Moshe,
which is all truth,
lo cual es toda realidad,
because the Torah was written with the finger of Yahuwah,
porque la Torah fue escrita con el dedo de
and
Yahuwah.
I'm inviting you to observe
Y te
it.
estoy invitando a que la observes.
There's your choice.
Ahí está tu opción.
I invite
Yo
you,
te invito,
as the one who gave the Torah to
como el que
Moshe,
dio la Torah a Moshe,
I invite
te
you
invito a ti
to observe
a observar
everything he taught you.
todo lo que él te enseñó,
Observe it
observándolo
and do it.
y haciéndolo.
Observe it
Observándolo
and do it.
y haciéndolo.
Shomer
Shomer,
v'naseh.
hacer.
Shomer,
Shomer,
observe,
observar y
v'naseh,
hacer.
and do.
Y hacer.
When we get the Spanish word, hacer.
De donde sacamos
From
la
the
palabra en
Hebrew,
español,
nace.
hacer, nace.
So all languages come from Hebrew.
Todos los idiomas vienen del
The
hebreo.
Spanish word to do, hacer,
La palabra en español
comes from the
hacer
Hebrew naseh.
viene del hebreo nace.
But here's the dichotomy.
Pero aquí viene la
Do
dicotomía.
not do
No hagan
what they're inviting you to
lo que
do.
ellos les están invitando a hacer.
For they talk Torah
Porque hablan Torah
and do not do
y no hacen
Torah
Torah.
that Moshe invited you to
Que
do.
Moshe les invitó
Let's
a
do that
ustedes a
again.
hacer.
They talk Torah,
Ellos hablan Torah,
but they do not do
pero no
Torah,
hacen Torah.
the kind that Moshe
El tipo que Moshe
invited you to
les
do.
invitó a ustedes a hacer.
And we'll close with
Y
this.
cerramos con eso.
Do not do
No hagan
their Torah.
su Torah.
Now, the actual, it should read,
Debería decir, la frase
do
actual
not
dice,
do their mixat
no hagan sus mixat,
maseh Torah.
mazeh
And
ha-Torah,
as we learned a few weeks
como
ago,
aprendimos unas semanas atrás.
mixat maseh Torah,
Mixat mazeh ha-Torah,
known in Galatians
conocida en Gálatas
and elsewhere
y en otros
as
lugares,
the works of the
como
law.
las obras de la ley,
They pick and choose
escogen y seleccionan
a few things,
unas cuantas
like
cositas,
circumcision,
como la
and
circuncisión,
forget everything else.
y se olvidan de todo lo demás.
They pick and choose.
Escogen y seleccionan.
The Hebrew for works of
La
law,
palabra hebrea para obras de la ley,
verified in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
confirmada en los pergaminos del Mar Muerto.
Works of law,
Obras de la ley,
verified in the Dead Sea Scrolls,
confirmadas en el pergamino del Mar Muerto,
is the Hebrew
es en el hebreo, está en el hebreo.
mixat
Mixat,
maseh
mazeh,
haTorah.
ha-Torah.
The few works of law
Las cuantas obras de la ley
that they pick and choose.
que ellos deciden hacer, escogen
We learned
hacer.
that a few weeks ago.
Eso lo aprendimos semanas
So
atrás.
Moshe says, do all the Torah
Así que Moshe dice, hagan toda la Torah
and have all the abundant
y tengan
blessings,
todas las bracot bendiciones en plenitud,
including knowing my true name.
incluyendo el conocer mi nombre
Because
real.
unless you learn my true
Porque
name,
solo que aprendan mi nombre
when
real,
I return to the earth,
cuando yo regrese a la tierra,
you will not see me again.
no me verán de nuevo.
Or
O
you can follow
pueden seguir
those who sat themselves
a los que se sentaron a sí mismos
in Moses' seat.
en el asiento de Moshe.
And what are they inviting you to
¿Y
do?
a qué te están invitando ellos?
See?
¿Ven?
Moshe is inviting you to do the whole Torah.
Moshe te está invitando a que hagas toda la Torah.
These religious people
Estas personas religiosas
are inviting you
te
to
están
do
invitando a hacer
mixat
mixat,
maseh
ma'azeh,
haTorah. A
ha-Torah.
few
Unas
what
cuantas
they consider
cositas
important
que
things
ellos consideran importantes
to make you
para hacer que tú
into their
seas
disciples
aprendice de ellos
and not my disciples.
y no de Yahusha.
So we close with this.
Así que cerramos con esto.
You have Moshe's seat.
Tienes el asiento de Moshe.
There's nobody there now
No hay nadie ahí en este
because the people
momento
that are there are
Porque las
illegal
personas que están
occupants.
ahí son ocupantes, usurpadores,
So
ilegales.
the only thing Moshe's seat is today,
Así lo único que es el asiento de
You're not
Moshe
listening.
hoy. Y no están escuchando.
you're not listening.
No están escuchando.
The only thing Moshe's seat is today
Lo único que es hoy el asiento de Moshe
is an invitation.
es una invitación.
There's nobody there.
No hay nadie ahí.
Because Yahushua doesn't recognize them.
Porque Yahusha no los reconoce.
It's an invitation
Es una invitación
to do Torah
para hacer Torah
and please Him
y complacerle
by obeying.
al obedecer.
But the illegal occupants,
Pero los ocupantes ilegales
we can compromise.
podemos comprometernos.
Like the sister was saying before,
Como decía la J
the
anteriormente,
Noahide laws.
las leyes de Noah,
The stupid
los
occupants
torpes
are
ocupantes
telling non-Jews
están diciéndole a los que no son
that if
judíos
they follow the 1009 or 10 Noahide
que si
laws,
siguen las 9 o 10 leyes de
they're going to live forever
Noé, van a vivir para siempre.
without the blood of the
Sin la
Lamb,
sangre del cordero,
without the
sin la
resurrection
resurrección
of the Son of
del
Yahuwah.
Hijo de
No,
Yahuwah.
no. The seat of Moses says you don't need
El
that
asiento de Moshe
stuff.
dice, no necesitan eso.
Just do it. Noah did.
Hagan lo que hizo Noé.
Don't eat meat. Don't eat blood. Be good to your neighbor. The man-made Noahide
No coman
laws.
carne, no coman sangre, sean amables con sus vecinos, las leyes artificiales que ellos llaman de Noé.
Okay. So what's left of Moses' seat today
Así que lo que queda del asiento de Moshe hoy
is an invitation
es una
from
invitación
Moses.
de Moshe.
Rabbis,
Los rabinos
if you wind up following those occupants,
si acaban siguiendo a esos usurpadores,
we'll wind up compromising.
acabarán comprometiéndose,
Because
viviendo con una vida
They're telling
comprometida.
98% of the world's population,
Porque le están diciendo al 98% de la,
Mixat Maseh
de la
Torah.
población del mundo, Mixat Maseh
Just do
Torah,
the works of law,
solo hagan las obras de la ley,
the Noahide law.
las leyes de Noé.
Gentiles don't have to do Torah.
Los gentiles no tienen que hacer Torah.
This is what's going on.
Esto es lo que está
What are
aconteciendo.
the Noahide laws?
¿Cuáles son las leyes de Noah?
Mixat Maseh Torah.
Mixat Maseh Torah.
A few
Unas
things
cuantas cositas
that we decide.
que nosotros
The
decidimos.
Torah says the opposite.
Torah dice lo opuesto.
Everything in the Torah is for everybody.
Todo lo que está en Torah es para todo mundo.
Numbers 15.
Números 15.
For the native born
Para el
and
nativo.
for the strangers who
Y para
join.
los extranjeros que se unen.
And we'll continue this tomorrow.
Y continuaremos con esto mañana.
I mean, maybe I preach better in the mountains.
I think you do.
You think?
Yes. What about the count of the Omer?
You think this calls for a move?
¿Cree que esto reclama un moverse? Maybe. But I don't know about the other people in Goshen, what they would
They
say.
would not be too happy.
They'd be like, what the?
So you wanted to share something, and then we'll say the bracha.
Well, you said it, but I'll say what
Oh, I
was
did
gonna
say it. Well,
Yeah,
that's why I
you
told you
ended
you
up
couldn't
saying
say it because I knew I was going to say it.
Yes.
I didn't know the Ruach knew.
Well, what I was going to say was this.
Mhm.
Lo que iba a decir es esto. Exiting the church and trying to find our way through who we think knows the way, yéndonos de la iglesia e intentando encontrar el camino a través de personas que pensamos que conocen el camino, which are the Jews, que son los judíos. We think, oh, just follow what they're doing. Just like it says here, and we don't know how to read this chapter correctly, the first two verses. Decimos, sigámoslos a ellos saben lo que están haciendo, han estado haciendo esto toda su vida. Guiados por este capítulo 34, it was chapter 34, right? 23, verse 1 and 2. Guiados por este capítulo 23 de Mateo, versos 1 y 2. We think, they know what they're doing, let's follow them. ¿Saben lo que ellos están haciendo? Sigámoslos a ellos. But when you follow enough and you read your scriptures at the same time, you understand that they're not following scripture. Pero cuando lo sigues lo suficiente y lees tus escrituras al mismo tiempo, te vas dando cuenta que ellos no están siguiendo la Torah. And then comes the conundrum of, who are these people? Y luego viene la pregunta, ¿quién es esta gente? And you begin to understand that when they tell you you have to deny Messiah to become one of them, y comienzas a entender que cuando te dicen que tienes que negar a Mashiach para llegar a ser uno de ellos, and become a second, third class citizen, y llegar a ser un ciudadano segunda, tercera clase, you're not following the righteous leaders. No estás siguiendo a los líderes tzadikim. tzaddikim. No estás siguiendo a los tzaddikim. You're following imposters that hate your lamb. Estás siguiendo impostores que odian a tu cordero. And that's when you have to ask yourself, well, what is it about what they're teaching me right? What is it that they actually do have correct according to Torah? Y luego te tienes que preguntar, ¿qué es de lo que ellos me están enseñando que coincide correctamente con Torah? They hate my leader, they hate my master, they hate my redeemer. Odian a mi líder, a mi maestro, a mi redentor. What else about his instruction do they hate?
But worse than that.
¿Qué más de su instrucción odian ellos? And what am I following in a wrong way?
Worse.
¿Qué más estoy siguiendo equivocado?
Worse than that.
Y peor aún,
He told you.
Él te dijo,
He warned us.
nos advirtió
Us, because he loves us.
a nosotros porque Él nos ama a nosotros.
If you follow their teaching,
Si tú sigues sus enseñanzas,
even the right ones,
aún las correctas,
doesn't matter.
las realidades de restauración,
such as my true name,
tales como mi nombre correcto,
you will not see me again.
no me verán de nuevo.
That means the resurrection
Eso quiere decir que la resurrección
occurs after the second coming.
acontece después de la segunda venida.
So if we don't accept the restoration truth,
Así que si no aceptamos las realidades de restauración,
we will not see him
no lo veremos
in his second coming.
en su segunda venida.
And if we don't perceive,
Y si no percibimos,
how are we going to be resurrected?
¿cómo vamos a ser
He
resucitados?
says, you're going to be cut off.
Dice, van a ser cortados.
Yikaret.
Y caret.
You will not see me.
No me verán.
Who will
¿A
see?
quién? ¿Quién no te verá?
He's talking to the seat of Moses.
Está hablándole al asiento de Moshe.
He's talking to the Pharisees
Está hablándole a los
and
fariseos
to the
y a
scribes.
los escribas.
He's saying, you guys
Está diciendo
who are
ustedes,
teaching Israel
quienes están enseñándole a Israel
and claim to be
y
teachers,
dicen ser maestros.
you won't see me,
Ustedes no me verán,
but they will.
pero yo sí. And the other thing, and this is sad because I've seen this in my experience. Esto es triste, yo lo he visto en mi experiencia. Many believers of Messiah or followers of Messiah, in following a physical teacher, muchos creyentes seguidores de Mashiach, intentando seguir a un maestro físico, end up following the rabbis, acaban siguiendo a los rabinos, who also teach them, you can't say the name anymore. Les enseñan, no pueden decir el nombre más. So, the name that brings us to all truth, the name that brings us to deliverance, salvation, restoration, el nombre que nos trae al rescate, a la redención, a la restauración, they tell us, you can't say it anymore. Nos dicen, no lo pueden decir más. That's how you know you're with the enemy, in the enemy camp, in the camp of Shechem and Hamor. Así es como sabes que estás en el campamento de Shechem, Hamor, del enemigo. They're trying to absorb you as Israel and make you one of them. Están intentando absorberte a ti como Israel, hacerte uno de ellos, and erase your identity, borrar tu identidad, to make you forget the name of Yahuwah who rescued you, hacerte olvidar el nombre de Yahuwah que te rescata, and the Lamb of Yahuwah who died for you, y al Cordero de Yahuwah que murió por ti.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're not to hate them. We just
Don't
can't
follow.
follow them.
We just can't follow.
No los vamos a odiar, simplemente no los vamos a seguir.
Exactly. Exactly. Tov,
We
tov.
have to be the head, like Lewi and Shimeon. Nosotros tenemos que ser la cabeza como Lewi y Shimeon, and not the tail, y no la cola. We can't follow them. They have to follow us, following Yahusha. Ellos tienen que seguirnos a nosotros al seguir nosotros a Yahusha.
Amen. So let's pronounce the bracha.
Digamos la braca.
I believe today is
Yom 35. 5 weeks.
Day 35.
Hoy es el Yom 35,
In the
5
counting,
semanas.
in the counting of the blessed
En
Omer.
la cuenta del Omer
So
Baruch.
would you be so kind? I'll do the Hebrew
Yo hago el hebreo
and you could do the English.
y usted haga el inglés.
Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al hanifat ha'omer. Amen. B'shem Yehoshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen.
Together.
Blessed are you, Yahuwah, Baruch eres tú, Yahuwah, our Elohim, nuestro Elohim, King of the universe, Rey del universo, who has set us apart with his commandments, que nos has apartado con tus mandamientos, and has commanded us regarding the waving of the Omer, y nos has ordenado con respecto al mecer el Omer. In the name of Yahushua, our Mashiach, Amen. En el nombre de Yahushua, nuestro Mashiach, Amen.
Baruch atah Yahweh
Baruch Shemo
Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sifrat ha'omer. B'shem Yehoshua HaMashiach.
Amen.
Amen. Together.
Blessed are you, Yahuwah, our Elohim. Baruch eres tú, Yahuwah, nuestro Elohim. King of the universe, Rey del universo, who has set us apart with his commandments, que nos has apartado con tus mandamientos, and has commanded us regarding, y nos has ordenado con respecto a the counting of the Omer, la cuenta del Omer, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, our Messiah. Amén. En el nombre de Yahushua nuestro Mashiach. Amén. Hayom. Hoy es 35 Yamim, 35 Yamim días, days, which are 5 weeks, que son 5 semanas of the blessed Omer, del Omer Baruch.
Hayom Yom 35 Yamim, Shehem 5 Shavuot Ba-Omer.
Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
B'Shem Yahushua
5
HaMashiach.
weeks, counting on.
That means 2 weeks from tomorrow is
Querían decir que 2
Shavuot,
semanas a
Pentecost.
partir de mañana es Shavuot, Pentecostés.
Oh, you know what's interesting?
¿Saben lo que es interesante?
Before I forget.
Antes de que se me olvide.
Shabbat Shalom, Mamos. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Amos,
Enrique.
Sofía, Enrique.
Oh, by the way, before I forget,
Antes de que se me olvide.
I was meditating.
Estaba yo meditando.
You know how there are 3 periods of Omer?
¿Saben cómo hay 3 intervalos del Omer?
From Bikurim to Shavuot,
De Bikurim a Shavuot.
50 weeks,
50
days.
50 Yamim.
From Shavuot
De Shavuot
to the Feast of New Wine.
a la fiesta del vino.
What's that? Rosh?
Rosh.
What's the name of
I
New Wine?
forgot right now.
Right. It's
Tirosh.
Tirosh is 50 days.
50 Yamim.
And from Yom Tirosh, the Feast of New
Y
Wine,
de la fiesta de Tirosh a la fiesta del vino nuevo.
to the Feast of Olive,
A la
of
fiesta.
new wine, of new oil,
Del aceite nuevo.
of Shemen Chadash
Shemen Hadash.
is 50 days,
Son 50 Yamim.
150.
150.
So we have 3 50-day counts.
Así que tenemos 3 cuentas de 150 días Yamim en total,
That bring us more or less to Yom
que
Teruah.
nos trae más o menos a Yom Teruah.
So I was meditating,
Así que estaba yo
and we have
meditando.
150
Y
Psalms,
tenemos 150 salmos.
plus
Wow.
one bonus,
Más uno,
which is David the Shepherd Psalm,
que es el salmo de David,
as a leader,
Baruch Hashem.
is chosen as a leader,
que es escogido como un líder,
which says that every leader,
que dice que todo líder,
talking about restoration,
hablando de restauración,
must
and he
restore,
reigns from the wood,
must restore
y tiene que restaurar
3 sets of 50,
3 grupos de
from
50,
Bikurim to
de
Shavuot,
Bikurim a
from
Shavuot,
Shavuot to
de
Tirosh,
Shavuot a Tirosh,
from Tirosh
de
to
Tirosh a Shemen
Shemen Chadash,
Shemen Hadash.
150 Psalms
150 salmos,
for each day
plus one por cada yom
of the Omer counts.
de las
Of
cuentas
the
del Omer,
three.
de las 3
Omer counts.
cuentas del Omer.
And the extra one
Y el yom
is
adicional
when David
es cuando
is
David
anointed
es ungido
as king,
como rey
or the Messiah.
o el
So
Mesías,
the Messiah's headship
la cabeza del Mesías.
has us applying.
But that's the reigning from the wood,
Yeah, but
which is then is the count of the wood.
but technically you could read one psalm
Pero técnicamente se puede leer un salmo
for 150
Sure,
days.
por 150 yamim.
One for each day.
Uno por cada yom.
From the barley harvest
De la cosecha de la cebada
to the feast of
a la fiesta de
oil.
al aceite. So today we should be reading the 35th Psalm. Hoy deberíamos de estar leyendo el Salmo 35.
How about if we do that after lunch?
Yes, let's do that after lunch.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem Yahuwah.
All right, friends, it's been a blessing. We love you.
Thank you, friends.
We'll see you tomorrow
Aquí, amigos.
for Chodesh number 3.
Nos vemos mañana para Chodesh número 3 at
12
the same bad time,
12
bad time, same bad channel,
12 o'clock.
a las 12 de la tarde.
And we trust that today has been a
Y
blessing.
confiamos que hoy haya sido una praca.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom a todos.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.